Claude 4 has just been released by Anthropic, and it low-key took my job. Not really, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at that today because Anthropic just released 2 new models, and the models that were released are Claude Opus, which is the biggest model ever, and Claude Sonnet. And I think they're literally on par right now to take over the entire world and bring us into a whole new paradigm of problem solving that we probably haven't seen since last year with the release of Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So joining me today, I have Yifan, who's coming in live, who's an expert engineer. He's been working with many years of experience here in the industry, and he has a lot of great tutorials online teaching you how to set up Cursor, how to set up these different IDEs like Windsurf. And I've learned a lot from Yifan about how to set up my rules so that these agents can fully take advantage of their intelligence and kind of help us get there in this space. So Yifan, welcome.
Oh, thanks for the intro. Glad to finally be here. I mean, we've been planning for this for maybe 3 months now. And
yes,
finally getting to do this on one of the biggest days is great.
Yeah, it's literally incredible. And if we just kind of take a quick look at the pricing, because a lot of people are really curious right now for Claude 4 Opus, like how much is it going to cost me? How many kidneys do I need to sell so I can actually use this thing in production? And it is heavy.
It is quite a few kidneys. And
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for Opus, this is a $15 per million input, which seems okay, but $75 per million output is not exactly cheap, really. But cheaper than GPT 4.5 though. I was still shocked when I saw the GPT 4.5 pricing at 150, I think it was, right?
Yeah,
for the output tokens. Yeah.
Whoa.
And then I think they maintained similar pricing for Sonnet, and for Haiku hasn't got a new model yet, sadly.
That's right. So there's a couple of ways that we're going to be using this model today, and we're going to be using it in Claude Code itself. There's a command line interface that we'll be typing into and doing different types of things. So Yifan has kind of been like really going in on this and is going to show us some really cool workflows. It's going to teach me a bunch of things because I don't use it as frequently, and I would say you're pretty cracked at it. And then I'm going to pull up Cursor. So stay tuned. I'm going to have timestamps. If you're watching this later on in the stream, or if you're going to come back later, if you rewatch the video, I'm going to have the timestamps below so you can actually skip around to those different sections. You'll kind of see us go through those types of things. So not only are we going to cover basically using it in the command line, using it in the web interface, we're also going to use it, in Cursor itself and kind of how to get that set up, because there's a lot of different moving parts here and a lot of different things that are going on. So we have some different benchmarks and different things we're going to try out, like some design tasks, some actually normal things that you would do during coding, and then seeing how good it is as far as like different type of thing. If you're here to see us code another like Python or Snake game, get out of here. This stream is not for you. This stream is like for like serious people who are trying to make software, and we're not here to do really funny demos. But if you do want us to build something that's really fun on the stream, because this is live, feel free to drop those comments right now. And I'm going to be going through those comments while Yifan is also going to be building and doing some stuff as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens, like the real world tasks here, the sweet benchmarks we'll also talk about, and the live features. So I'm so happy to have you. Let's go ahead and see if I can get you cooking, man, on this whole stream here.
Yeah, absolutely. And shall we get started, given that we start with a command line interface? Let me reshare a different part of my screen here.
Totally. Yeah, we'll get that going. So how's everyone doing with their Claude Code? Have you tried it? Have you sold your kidney yet? Has anyone upgraded to the Max plan? Because the Max plan will also allow us to use the actual Claude Code command line interface as well. And so I think I learned some things from Yifan as far as like what the limitations are, which proved to be extremely insightful here. So let me go ahead and get you up here, and then I'll kind of sneak over here on the side.
Okay, right. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm running this currently in my JetBrains IDE, but this will look the same regardless of what terminal you open up. And I mean, like with Claude Code, sadly, after the update, they haven't explicitly popped up a notice to say this is using Sonnet 4 or like Opus 4 yet, but I've checked the underlying API request by spying on the API, so it definitely is calling Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 in this planning. I think like what is really interesting here is that, with Claude Code, all of that agentic workflow is just built into this single text interface. And because it's just text, it kind of forced the Anthropic engineers to just think about, okay, throw away all of the fancy UI elements. How can we present a linear history of change and just messages to engineers such that they can understand really what's going on and in terms of the implementation. And so I'll show you like one of the example runs I just did earlier. So this is one of my repos that I built called busfactor.dev. So it analyzes open source repositories based on their contributor activity, their issue activity, to understand, how actively maintained this repository is, giving you a bus factor rating of how dangerous or safe it is to use this repository. Because, the higher the bus factor, just for the people who don't know, is the number of people that has to be killed in a bus crash for a project to die out of just lack of activity. So basically, you want this number to be as high as possible, which means that you have plenty of maintainers such that if anything goes wrong, you always have someone to actually cover the ongoing project. If the bus factor is 1, it means that if anything happens to that person, the project's gone, right?
We're cooked, yeah.
Yeah. And so basically, I built this originally for my own usage, just so that when I look at a new repository going, oh, this is shiny, can I use this?
Yeah.
And then to decide, okay, yeah, it is very well maintained, therefore continue. Oh, looking, it's got a lot of stars, but only one person working on this. Okay, I gotta be careful.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll show you the feature this thing actually implemented after I show you the current workflow.
Yeah.
So in this repository, like the first, actually, you know what? Given that we've talked about it, what might be easier is if I just do a quick demo of the website first, just for people to get a proper idea. And
yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm gonna reshare my screen into this website. Turn on screen. Can you see this thing?
Yeah, it's cool. Wow.
Yeah. So this is just running locally so that you can also see all of the latest feature that's getting built. And this is running across a few past repositories. You can see that analyze the codex repository to see, like from OpenAI, the bus factor for their repository is 3. So look at the activity. There's been 107 contributors over the past 3 months, 383 commits. You can look at how many issues were open vs closed so that you know that, the total number of issues is actually going down, or maybe they're just having an exponential growing number of issues piling up. And looking at the contributor distribution, you can see that and who are the people who have significantly contributed. So this is only people who have done, I think I've set the criteria as more than 5 commits over the past 3 months shows up here. Otherwise, they show as others. And then you can see that there's basically 3 people from OpenAI actively working on the Codex CLI tool from their side. And then because it was just released on April 7th, this is the open vs closed issues history when you look at this. And yeah, so basically been using this as one of my mini benchmarks to test new AI models because it's got enough features to be interesting, but not overly complex so that I have to deal with too much production issues.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the gist of the app. And I'll leave a link at the end when I publish a new version. So if people want to try this out, you can just sign in with your own GitHub to give this a whirl. And
that's
we'll
pretty
go back
cool.
to the code there. Yeah, the window. Okay, I'm getting fast at this now. And we're back.
That's awesome.
So yeah, basically the issue graph that you saw was literally just implemented by Claude Code just prior to getting out of the stream with Ray.
Whoa.
So here you can see that it's a very simple prompt. For the issue graph, let's display in actual week numbers. It was previously displayed in really odd like week numbers. And then show only history in the past 6 months. If the project doesn't have 6 months, the first bit should be empty. Hence the codex empty part that you saw at the very beginning. And if you look at the Claude Code workflow, I think they've built, I've got to say, personally, I think it's one of the most beautiful CLI interfaces where it shows you I end up doing something, I read the file, now let's move on to the next step. So everything you would have expected in chat, now also on the command line presented
Ooh.
to you in very similar and just as beautiful fashion. And because it's on the command line, they've built in a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts to allow you to say, oh, you want to see what this thing has actually read? Press Command R, you can see every single step it executed through
Oh,
in
just with
this
Command
entire
R.
history. Yeah,
Oh, I
with
see.
just with Command R. And then
I
so
like
this
that.
change actually took more than 100 lines, but it was actually all correct and all in one
What?
go. It was
Oh
actually
my.
all correct. I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised because
Oh,
I tried this
whoa.
just earlier today with Claude
This guy
3.7.
says, I just fed an
It didn't
improvement
work.
prompt and a single HTML website and it made it 3 times better. Things are getting crazy now.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
How's it going, Andre? How's it going, Doom? Ray, you're late. It's like, I know. We were just getting stuff started. Chill, everyone. Just chill.
I'm sorry. I was hogging Ray's time when we were backstage.
Yeah, we're doing stuff. We're definitely cooking. Huge shout outs to No Code Dan, Alberto, who's a member as well. Get Max, yo, what's happening? We are totally flying right now. Also, if you're on X, we're basically cooking as well on there. So we're on all platforms right now, X, Twitch, and all that stuff. I'm sick of Tetris, Snake, and Coffee demos. Yes, I know people were talking about using the model like that's super powerful. We're going to basically be using this to, as you saw, it's just the first look here. Let me go ahead and just quickly break over to my side of the screen because I want to see how long it's going to take for this prompt of mine to do. Because for those who don't know, I wanted to see if I can use Cursor in this type of workflow because Cursor now has these improvements for us. And Cursor includes the model. And the way to get there, you just go to this little settings gear up here. And then once you go to the little settings, you basically want to scroll down to, I think it's under models. So in models, you're now going to see this version that says Claude 4 Opus, Claude 4 Opus Thinking, Claude 4 Sonnet, and Claude Sonnet Thinking. So you have these 4 as the new selections. You go ahead and select them. And by the way, you can only select them if you're going to be using the actual max mode. So it says there's certain models like here, it says Claude 4 Opus is only available in max mode. And so if you're going to want to use this Opus model, which is like their biggest model, you have to do it there. And so once we select max mode, then you're able to see a little bit more details as far as like what the input and cache output and so forth there is. So as far as using these models, you're going to be paying like the API cost plus a little bit of overhead to use it in the IDE. And, theoretically, you should be able to get you a lot of performance. So I thought I would start out this stream maybe with doing something that I did a while back. I started this clickbaity post that basically said, I fired my designer and AI does their job now. So I really think that this was really clickbaity, and I know a lot of people did some stuff there, but it was more about to really showcase the rule of like having a design system. And this is the entire rules file. You can go to rayfernando.ai to grab this if you're really interested. So I'm basically just going to grab this entire prompt, and I'm trying to see.
That is a mega prompt, man.
Yeah.
Compared to the one I've just sent, this is a proper mega prompt.
Yeah, this actually should take advantage of the full intelligence of this model, and then we'll see how Cursor does with this type of model in our app, because it should be able to iterate and I'm hoping it's able to understand what files to touch and what files not to touch, and basically hopefully do it just in one shot, right? So we're talking about making sure that there's an 8-grid spacing system, and the app that I'm using is called vibestamps.com. So vibestamps.com is a really simple app where you can just upload an SRT file, and then it'll just give you the timestamps for a YouTube video. Has a light mode and dark mode. And for even like this type of details, I actually have these little clouds that move in the background. That's kind of fun. It's all done in like CSS and also with Tailwind, which is really awesome. So that works in light mode and dark mode. You can kind of see them moving. So it has like a different vibe to it and feel. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and see. I pasted this prompt into here, and I basically said, at the very end, I also have a little checklist as well. So it says, make sure when you review, you do this type of thing. So this is something that I already set up in this before Claude, this stuff went down, hoping that these models would be really good to it. So I have the agents selected and had max mode enabled. And I said Claude 4 Opus here in the dropdown. So now it's going to use the thinking model to think through. And I'm just going to say, whoops. Okay. What does it say? We hit a rate limit already. Please switch to the auto select model or another model again. Oh man, so just right off the bat, there's already a rate limit. That's kind of bummer. So I think what I was gonna do is just gonna tell it some other instructions here. I'm gonna say, please make sure that my app follows these design guidelines. So I'm hoping that I could just go ahead and try again, just using this type of thing. Oh, come on. Oh, are we going to? Yes, let's go.
We got started.
I think we got in. So here it's planning the next moves. We're seeing the planning phase take place. So now it's basically, let's resume. Dude, I might have to babysit this thing again. Wow.
So maybe you can vibe code a button that clicks to try again right now. And so meta.
Bro, this is going to be insane. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Okay. So now it's actually doing. So I think the thing that we wanted for me to figure out here is like, how good is Cursor if you basically just give it, besides Claude Code CLI, like who would actually do really well here, right? In this type of task or scenario. And this is just something that I wanted to get running. So I'm going to let this go in the background. And I wanted to see kind of what's going on in your workflow, because you're going to show me a little bit more about the Claude Code CLI, and then maybe what is also happening with GitHub and that type of connections as well. So while this is going, because this may take a little while, I'm just going to switch over to Yifan and kind of let you cook a little bit on your side. So when you're ready, I'll switch over to your screen and we'll go here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
cool.
I'm out already. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool.
I was just wondering whether we should be doing sweepstakes for how long that task you give it was going to take.
Yo, yeah.
I think people should comment. Let us know how long you think it's going to take. And,
yeah,
maybe
drop it in the comments to see how
winner.
long. Right now, as you can see, cursor cooking on my side of the screen. It's actually kind of going and stuff. So it's it's actually going, and I'm gonna keep hitting retry. But yeah, if you drop the comments right now, we just start at 10:26. So we'll see. Hopefully before 10:45. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, this should be fun. Yeah. So I also thought that it would be great to just show people and how this thing actually looks from the command line in a fresh run. And so I think what's really good about the Claude workflow, and I think this is underappreciated by most people, is they have this command they'll prompt you to run every single time you start the project, is a /init. Just by running /init, it will automatically go scan your entire repository, and you can see it analyzes a README. It will also read the cursor rules file, the GitHub Copilot instruction file, so it knows where the rules files are, and also read your package.json, or if you're in Python, like your package log files, to understand the structure of your project, what you're trying to use, and then generate that memory file. So the rules file basically for you based on your existing project context. So I think this is one of the great way to really just get started, right? Just get any code base, whether it's new or old, you can go into it, start Claude on the command line, and then /init, boom, let it figure out the context. And then you can just go in and do the tweaking. Even if you already have a project that has this file committed, it will update it.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can see like here, it's seeing my Supabase migration files, it's trying to understand what's actually in the table. And I'll let this run also in the background while I actually show you the current Claude.yaml, which is the Claude's sorry, not this one. So Claude.md, the Claude Code equivalent of the rules files that they have. And then so it tries to understand, like for databases, it needs to run the npx Supabase start. And then because it's a Next.js project, how I'm currently integrated with a Supabase auth for GitHub, and then use a Supabase for Postgres, and the design system using Tailwind, and like using recharts for drawing the lovely React charts. If you're not using library, I recently just found that it's pretty great. And also a whole bunch of the environment setups. So this is actually mostly just generated by Claude. I did not have to do this file myself, which is extremely convenient.
Wow.
Because if we look back into the Claude run itself, and it's actually still ongoing. I'm wondering why it's actually taking so long. But so basically it will know to go in to finally generate that file. And as I previously mentioned, it's like this verb that you see here, it gets updated depending on the work it does. Okay, here now, it's ready to generate the file if you haven't set auto edit and it will ask you to confirm the change. And because, let me make this window slightly larger.
Okay.
And I think you'll see similar interfaces if you're using the Claude Code CLI with VS Code as well. This is with the JetBrains IDE now. It will show you the diff using the IDE view rather than just purely on the command line, which is extremely convenient. So,
is Claude Max worth it now? Yeah. What do you think?
I say 100%. I think 100. I'm still on the $100 subscription. I haven't even paid for the $200 one, and I've not been able to max it out. So
my God.
I think it deserves the name of Claude Max right now.
That's amazing. Whoa.
Yeah.
So what are the limits that you have? What are the like kind of like requests or things that you see in there? What's the reset period and all that?
So limits is I think roughly 250 messages per 5 hours is my current understanding. So each message is counted as, a single tool use, a single prompt, a single one of their response. But in a normal coding session, for every task, you might be using like 30, 40 max. And then so really you have plenty to go on. And that 5 hours, you can easily run, like 5 to 10 tasks straight away. And most of the time, we're not that well parallelized. So I think I need to improve my workflow further to get better at designing software ahead of time rather than just constantly vibe coding to be able to really truly max it out. But so that's my goal for next week is hitting the rate limit on Claude Max.
Ooh, okay, okay.
Personally, I think 100% worth it. Especially it's $100. It's cheaper than the 200 that you get from ChatGPT Pro and cheaper than the Gemini Ultra, albeit you get more features. But if you're just doing coding, Claude Max is great.
And the Claude 4 for sure, like.
Claude 4 for sure. And because that's also part of the integration now. And one thing that I personally really like about the Claude Max subscription is that you're never worrying about API credit usage. Because I get too much anxiety when I use the API key thinking, did I throw in a too complex task? And if it fails, do I feel bad for wasting, like $10 on a task that went nowhere? And I think I just didn't like that kind of feeling of constantly worrying about the task being too big. But as it being part of the as part of a subscription, you know that you'll be capped. And it's great that they do every 5 hour cap so that if you're capped out, take a break, drink coffee, you've done enough work for the day, chill, then come back the next morning, you'll be fine. That's also the other thing I like.
I think you're selling me on this.
Yeah, I know I'm sounding like an Anthropic fanboy at the moment, and I would have to say I maybe just recently converted because previously I was some of the biggest fans for Windsurf and Cursor. I still am, and it's just that Claude Code has also taken another part of my heart.
Yo, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Yeah.
So and as you can see, if we go into the change it actually applied, because I also did some change since I first generated this memory file, and I think it's updated some commands to run. And here I'll just go let it continue and make that edit. Okay. So also, can I actually show this here? Oh no, that's on a different command now. So yeah, now it's updated the memory, so then you can just continue to vibe code. So the other.
So what you've done so far is you generated the init command. So the init command, for those who are just tuning in, is just basically setting up what the project structure should be for this type of app that you're working with, so that Claude, going forward in the future, will have access to it. And then I think you do like /cost, right, to see how much like that costs. But it looks like at the very bottom, it tells you how much it's cost as it's going, right? Is that kind of what's going on?
Yes, and so I think this is one of the legacy features, because if you're on a subscription, it will just show you, hey dude, chill, you got max.
Okay. Dang. Okay, so for me, because I wasn't on, and I'm actually thinking about going on, and right now Claude actually has a thing. I have a link in my description, and actually let me see if I can kind of show you guys that. But basically, if you sign up for a max plan, you get entered for a chance to win 4 months of Claude free. So I think that's like an interesting incentive that they're giving people for like a referral type of thing. So on my side of things, let me kind of show you like kind of my screen here. So I have like a referral link, and the way that you can get there is just by, if you have your phone out, if you're watching this, I know a lot of people actually watch this on a TV.
Getting my phone out.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah, you can actually scan this, the referral link, and that link will actually get you to to do the 4 months max. It's cool. We basically, each of us get entered into this raffle here. So it'll actually say, hey, like you get basically $400 of value if you use this link. So I actually have that link in the description. I think it's rfer.me/Claude4max. I'm going to drop this into the chat as well, so y'all can have this. But basically, yeah, just hit this URL or like scan this QR code here, and then you should be able to kind of take a look at that. And I say, like, if you're gonna try this out, like I'm definitely gonna go try this out myself to upgrade to that, because I want to use the CLI as well. And really quickly, kind of just checking in on Cursor, it's still hitting these rate limits, and so I'm gonna make sure that we still keep on it, because what it's basically doing, it looked like it's actually iterating through, and it got the goal of this whole thing of my project to try to understand what the guidelines are, and it's going through and it's found like 22 items in the whole directory using Cursor's models. And then now checking font weights. So it's actually, you can actually see Cursor doing its thinking. It's like, hey, you don't have the 4 font sizes that you described in your actual, repo. And so let's go ahead and set those for you using Tailwind, which is awesome. Like, and that's kind of really interesting, because another question I was thinking is like, can Claude 4 clean up all of my AI slop, right? I think it can. It should be smart enough to go through, if I give it these design rules like this, everyone's talking about, oh, AI slop, but it doesn't really matter. You got there. Now just use a smarter AI to go fix it and then chill, right?
Yeah. I think you've just given me the best idea to run for my code base as another thing as we go on further parts of stream is fix any bug that you can find in this repository. Just give it no spec and then see how well it does in finding the bugs in the first place as a plan. And then we can pick 2 of them to actually fix.
Let's go. Let's see.
Yeah. So yeah, and actually just finally finishing showing case the Claude, the CLI interface, just so that people understand the thing that's it's also doing is that when you showed Cursor has its own agentic workflow. The thing that's different for using Claude CLI is the fact that in Cursor, even if you're using Sonnet 4 or Opus 4, you're using Cursor's agentic workflow. So Cursor is doing the orchestration for grabbing the file context, for or connecting to the MCPs, doing all of the heavy lifting in terms of transferring and acquiring context. But with the Claude Code, you are leaving that to the Claude CLI. So this is Anthropic's own agentic workflow. So this is why you actually see a bit of difference between the two, because they are different agentic workflows built by different companies. And the issue rate you just hit regarding the rate limits, I think this is one of the best thing about Claude Max is while you have the every 5-hour rate limit in the single session, it will not stop until it actually finishes the task you give it. And I've had it happily run for half an hour for some tasks.
No way.
Not necessarily doing
without you
hard
touching
work.
it. Yeah.
Without touching it, there's no need to continue, because I know in Cursor it pauses after 20 tool calls, and then in Windsurf it pauses after 25. I can't remember if I'm mixing numbers up, but Claude Code just goes and then just keeps going.
No way. Dude, that's seriously cracked. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So which is why when you get that more interesting agentic workflow with Anthropic, because given that they're also leading the MCPs, I kind of keep Claude Code, Cursor, and Windsurf. I actually constantly switch between the 3 to check which one is actually doing better. But my current general feel is that Claude Code's agentic flow is better. But sometimes, even though I haven't benchmarked Claude 4 against Gemini 5, but the agentic workflow is definitely way better. It's just happy to just continue down a rabbit hole until it completes a task.
Wow.
So yeah.
So as of right now, if we're putting the 2 head-to-head, because of the current rate limit issues, we're just talking about right this very moment. If everyone's trying to log in and use it, Cursor right now is hitting that max threshold of like, hey, too many API requests, try again later. They have their own infra issues to solve. But right now in Claude Code in the CLI, when you're just running it via their command line with Claude Code, you just Claude whatever, like we were doing there. Issue. Yeah. 30 minutes later, you're chilling. Like you didn't have to hit retry. You don't have to continue. Like I'm actually having to continually go in and he kept hitting retry in Cursor itself, which is kind of a like bummer for me right now. And like that's kind of, a pain. And so, and like you said, there's also the differences between what Cursor does and what Claude Code does. So that's an interesting thing there as well. You're selling me on this Max plan, man.
Yeah. And I really should charge Anthropic for doing this work. It's maybe it should be giving me that 4 month of free Claude Max for free. Anyway,
Let's go. Yeah.
But going down so looking at the diving a bit further in the agentic workflow, you can see that first it tries to gather the context, but here's the cool part where it generates a list of to-dos for itself, and you can see it traversing through the to-dos while it implements the work. And it's quite cool because it's just a command line interface, right? Then you can see it, updating one file and then going through the task. And then if we scroll down, you can see it knows, I've updated the H2 history chart. I've updated data processing. Now I need to modify the data fetching to get additional data. And then it's great that you have a way better view of progress compared to, I think this is another part I quite like about Anthropic's design compared to some of the coding IDEs, is because this is just very natively built as part of their agentic workflow. And I believe this is also one of the reasons why Claude Code does things really well, because they are able to, use these to-dos to keep the agent in check to, hey, go back and check. Did you finish your to-dos? If not, try again. If not, try again.
Wow.
And,
self-policing without you telling it to. Wow.
Self-policing, yeah, exactly. And because I also have lint set up, it knows to automatically run lints and fix it. But I think this is, most IDEs actually does this really well now. So yeah, basically this is a run. I think it's really funny that Claude is still showing me how much these things cost, but that I'm still not having to pay, which is great.
Oh, that's funny.
So,
that's like when you go to here in the US, when you go to a pharmacy and you get a prescription, they'll say, this would have cost you this much. Your insurance is saving you this much dollars. You're like, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like we promised, I am going to start that prompt that we said is we're going to just let it fix.
Okay.
Find
find the bug,
bugs.
Yeah.
We'll see how well it does. It's like find all bugs and then see
YOLO.
how far it gets.
Okay, let's see.
Find all bugs in this project and list them. Don't fix, but wait for me to choose. Boom. Okay, we'll see how it does. And because I have multiple terminals open or running Claude Code at the same time, much like you can have multiple chats open, and as long as you're not doing working on files that kind of overlap, it's working fine. Otherwise, you might have the model stepping on its own toe.
I see.
Working through the project.
So now it's going to search through its own stuff. And then when you get a chance, if you can show me what that looks like as well on GitHub, because I know there was some GitHub integration stuff that you were taking a look at, which is really cool.
Let's do that next while this does the work. And I think we can do another sweepstake of how long this thing is going to take, finding all the bugs. I'm curious to see.
And while that's going, I'll kind of show you
how long it's running for. Yeah.
Got it. I'll show you what Cursor is still doing. So we're still over here kind of waiting for Cursor to continue cooking as we can kind of see here. So Cursor is still hitting rate limits. So I'm having to hit try again. But it's been going through so far. So we're basically implemented a design system, and I'm refactoring the code so that it complies with that design system. And now it's going through file by file to specifically update those types of things. So what happens, especially if you're vibe coding, is that every component that you generate separately, it's going to just try to come up with a general design. And one of the advantages that you have using Tailwind CSS, and the other advantages that you have, especially using something like ShadCN, is that you have a design system. So you can define like saying, okay, I only have 4 design bases. I have like small, medium, large, and extra large. And I want you to use that throughout the app. And so when you're vibe coding, sometimes they'll just use Tailwind to like make that same type of thing by, either setting specific pixel parameters or things that are just kind of a little more inconvenient for you. And a lot of times that just gets really hairy, and this is kind of what we call like AI slop. So it'll start to generate stuff that maybe shouldn't be there, and it should be more in a different file somewhere else. And so now we're basically going through and changing these things like from Excel to base. We're changing, making sure that the design style and coloring also looks, pretty good here. And it's great because this is something that would just take me a painstakingly long time to go through file by file. even if I was using AI, I would have to keep copying and pasting and setting up new chats every time to go to every specific file to give it the system, right? So it's just a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, I think for engineers, this is amazing because, well, most of the time we suck at doing design, and it's great to just paste in a guideline and then see a beautiful thing come out the other end, right?
Exactly. So yeah, let's just take a look at what happens on the GitHub side of things, because I know so when you're using the Claude Code CLI, it interacts with GitHub, or how does this type of integration work?
Yeah, so inside the Claude Code interface, you can run, it's another slash command called like /install GitHub apps, and then it will guide you through all of the installation. I think I won't walk through that in detail, but it basically installs an app inside of your GitHub repository, giving it access to all of the all of the code under your account. Let me adjust the screen so that it actually fits in. Yeah, there we go. So inside so I've already added that to my repository. So what's really cool with Claude is that once you've added it, you can just tag Claude inside any one of your GitHub issues. So this is my busfactor repository. And so I've given it basically the exact same task that I did it on the command line. And so this was just me testing it right after the release. And then so you can see it just automatically jumping in to say, oh, I see the issue. Let me actually do the work for you. So you can imagine, even though Claude didn't technically give us the codex equivalent of containerized execution, but they've given this to us by proxy through Google GitHub Actions. And after it executes this thing, it creates a branch directly in your repository and then allows you can see the work it did, right? And and also a full description while not displaying you all of the progress. You can click on the button to create a PR with all of the code directly in your repository. You didn't have to do the checkout, right? You didn't have to do the checkout. It ran the lint. It did all of the work. And I actually checked this code out, even though the code looks slightly different to my local version of Claude Code's one. But this one is also like, it's also like mostly functional in this case. I'll explain why it's mostly functional.
Stop the stream right now. Stop the stream. Our jobs are done, bro. The AI has taken over. So you're saying that you can just, once you do in the Claude Code command line, you hit the GitHub / what's the command again?
And let me just show you the exact same interface. I need to fix my screen share because
it's okay.
Because on my screen, I realized I have an ultra wide screen. If I share my whole screen, the whole thing is just
going to be too small.
Yeah, but in this command, there's a you can see
/ install GitHub app. So
and
once
it will
you do
autocomplete when you type it in.
It'll punch you to GitHub, authorize you install the app, and then once it's married together, then you go over to GitHub, and then from GitHub you just in a PR or in a new issue you just hit @Claude.
@Claude, yep.
And then from there,
let me switch to the. I'll show you the code again. Yeah.
What? You're kidding me, bro.
Life has not been easier, has it?
Oh wow.
So, and then you can create this code. If you're working in a team setting, great.
Mm-hmm.
You can review the code first, ping it off to a teammate to review. Or if you just prefer to have Claude run things on the background without having to occupy your local machine resources, then you can just run as many of these in parallel as you want. Only caveat, it has to use the API key, so you can't really use your Claude Max subscription, which is a bit sad.
I see. So use your API key. You don't have to worry about compute, though. You don't have to worry about containers spinning up. None of that. Literally, it's just going to go through your code, through the connection, and run it. So if you have a Mac subscription, it doesn't really matter because you're just paying out of pocket for this feature. But the advantage you get is that you can be anywhere in the world. You have an internet connection. You can actually have a little bit more hands-on by hitting, defining more of the features. And I think the difference between this and like OpenAI's version is the fact that it seems to be a little bit more thorough. Or what is your kind of thought here or thinking?
My thinking is just the fact that GitHub has got code hosting and issue tracking, code reviewing, it's already a solved problem, right? OpenAI kind of tried to rebuild it into their own UI, but Anthropic is just like, well, Microsoft GitHub guys already done this. Why do we redo the UI? Let's integrate with them. And because here, then you get all of the nice things of your issue tracking. So you can manage your milestones, manage your project, just like you would do with any GitHub
I don't need
project,
a Notion.
right?
Yeah.
You get all of that without having to, like click through some clunky UI that does list the kind of your jobs, not knowing, oh, wait, what was the code that links to this? Where was my original issue? What if other people contributed? Because Claude will pull all of the discussion context from your issue history. Say if you have multiple team members collaborating on you or defining some additional specifications, it will pull from that entire history before it executes on that task.
Oh my goodness.
So you get to leverage all of the great tools here.
Wow.
Which is why I really love it.
Yeah, because the problem I had with the setting up OpenAI's code execution thing was the fact that I had a container problem when I was installing Bun. I think it should be fixed by now, but I spent 2 hours plus on a live stream just trying to get the container to install all my dependencies. So here, it's already kind of it's a solved problem. Claude's like, we already know what your code looks like. Yeah.
And just to do a tiny bit of like under the hood diving is for people that don't know, like Claude Code on GitHub uses this thing called GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions is GitHub's solution for running CI in the cloud. And in your GitHub repo, you can set up your workflow files to decide, say, whenever I push to my main branch, run. Oh, Ray, you kind of disappeared.
I just tried to get out of the way. Okay. Yeah, you're still good. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, just So it will basically, you say when you push to main, run all my tests, and before I merge into production, run all my end-to-end tests. So, and you can set up those kind of workflows, and then Claude, the install GitHub app step inside the command line, basically installs a workflow file for you, and then so that it runs as part of that CI interface. So what's really cool is that you can look into the CI run and see the work it really did behind the scenes to execute on the task I give it. Again, I think I love diving into these things. Is like you see the normal tools it has, but on top, it was given access to the GitHub MCP server. So that's how it was able to interact with all of the GitHub features to pull the comments, read it, submit pull requests, and deal with all of those shenanigans. So I can imagine as Anthropic release new features here, they might be adding more custom MCPs. And then based on my testing, you can also add in your own custom MCPs here as well. So whether it's your own built one in your project or other third-party imported one, I think you can do a lot here. So there's, I think, limitless opportunity here. And especially when Claude are the people that build the MCPs, I think things can only get better, right? So yeah, and you can see it connects to the GitHub file server, and GitHub is connected. And then you get to see the assistance and work, and also the model it was using. This is the thing I was really sad about when I said this thing didn't almost work, is they released this, but it's still running on 3.7.
Interesting. So wait,
the workflow is new, but the model is old, at least in the cloud version. But locally, I've double checked, it's running on Claude 4.
Oh, okay, got it. So you're saying if you right now, as of an hour ago or a couple hours ago when you were testing this, it was basically referencing Claude 3.7.
Correct. Yeah. And then, so I think they'll probably be spending some time dealing with this rollout. You'll get Claude 4 soon, but it's the workflow still stands, and it will just get smarter. Right?
Yeah.
So you can still try and get the setup and just be prepared. Definitely worth checking, double checking whether you are getting Claude 4 or not, right? By going into this log.
So if I do this GitHub flow action, will I also have access to the internet? Like, for example, if one of my tasks was to, run a command to install this component from, ShadCN or something?
Yes. Actually, I haven't checked this yet. I don't. I need to check. I think I'll reply in a comment in the comments after the live stream gets posted when I double check this. But because this is a GitHub workflow that you can customize, say if there's any additional setup you wanted to do before Claude Code ran, say set up some additional dependencies, you can do that. The container has full access to the internet. And based on my previous testing, Claude Code definitely has access to the search tool, which means it can use search to resolve issues. And
Oh
I've
my
seen it a
gosh.
couple of times when it go into a 10-minute debugging session, realize, wait, my understanding definitely doesn't work. Let me search the internet. Found the doc. This was I think it was, I've been constantly having issues when setting up new projects with React 19 and Next.js. And then this one was Claude just going, okay, I don't have this knowledge. Let me search the internet. Found a Stack Overflow post, got the right answer, came back and implemented. When I looked, I was like, oh wow, I can't believe I actually just looked up, did a proper search without prompting. I did not ask it. I just asked it, solve this problem. It solved the
Dude,
problem, searched the internet, went through like 30 results before landing on that one, and then fixed it after 20 minutes. Yeah.
amazing. Oh my goodness. And this is with Claude, like the tool calling and everything. And I think that's kind of what's interesting about this tool calling stuff is how powerful they can be, because they can do a second pass to analyze what has gone before them, do additional thinking ahead and seeing what the better plan and outcome is. And it really feels like super agentic and stuff. Wow, man.
Yeah, and the workflow I was just telling you about, I found that out before Claude 4 was released. So this was just with Claude Code. This was not dependent on Claude 4's release. So this is a great
Wow.
agentic workflow. I think they just built up, and that's why I've just got into using Claude Code quite a bit,
I
just so
see.
that I can feel out, okay, how does Anthropic do their agentic workflow differently compared
Hmm.
to Windsurf and Cursor guys?
I see.
But I
It,
also feel a bit bad for the coding IDE guys, because it's like they've been the biggest customers
yes.
for Anthropic, and then Anthropic
Yes.
just comes back to, hey guys, we got something better than yours, and then go, oh. But I love
Low
this
key.
competition. It's great for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great for
Competition
us
is
developers, right? Absolutely
exactly.
amazing.
We have more choice. So speaking of IDEs, Cursor looks like it just finished up. So for those who are wondering, you can actually get the model in Cursor, and the Claude 4 Opus is available in the max mode. So you have to actually enable the max mode by going into here. Obviously, like the maximum context window is going to be enabled. So 200,000 tokens for the context there, and you're billed at the API pricing. And so, yeah, be ready to sell some kidneys, but I think it may be worth it depending on what you're trying to do. So it was interesting that Yifan was taking a look at the
Time
Claude
for the
Code
review.
approach. Yeah, time for the review, right? So we're going to cover a little bit of the pricing, because there is like sort of, you get a capped fee in essence if you're using Claude Code in the max plan. And that's kind of that thing there. So on the Cursor side, you're paying API costs. So I gave it this big design document from something I did. I have set up here. So rayfernando.ai, and it's basically a giant rules file that explains how I want my design system to be implemented. And the goal here is to basically fix my AI slop, because in my app that I vibe coded called Vibe Stamps. So if you go to just vibestamps.com, you'll basically just see this app that will basically grab the SRT files and then display them in like little timestamps and stuff. So if I do bun dev, we should be able to run the app locally here. Let me take this away here. Let's see, localhost. And once we're local here, we should just select a timestamp so I can get something from my previous live stream or something here. This looks like a nice long live stream thing, 5,000 entries. And so it's basically going to go through and show us the timestamps. And so this is kind of what this would look like. And so this is actually running with the new like code change that was happening here with the design system. And so what it did is actually kind of changed my header here. I actually wanted it to be really big. It kind of broke it and stuff. And it just could be this like massive design system that I kind of implemented here. But it was just an interesting shot to check out. So I say process another file. So this is like basically like the after effects. We're actually looking at the code that Cursor has implemented. And you can say like, these are all the files that were changed, like touched all these files. And so, yeah, as of now, you can kind of see how messy it is. If we compare it to the production version, like I kind of liked that my header was really big up here. And this is like the fixed version. And, you know, as far as like the design system, I don't know if it's, how it kind of fixed my layout here, because I still have these types of things. And let's see what the local version is here. So, yeah, I think it just went through and like, it's funny because a refactor like this, like cleaned up the code, but it still didn't make it look visually appealing, even though I gave it those instructions and stuff, because I feel like the design is still a little off. See how it's kind of floating more towards the top, and it doesn't give enough spacing like at the top and the bottom. So like, it's really interesting, and I'm just really curious. I don't think it's like a cursor problem. I think it's more of like all of the rules that I have set up in there and the decisions it made to kind of have this laid out for us. Because yeah, I mean, typically over here, it's a little bit more like I sort of vibe coded this by hand. Not really, but I was like, okay, I want this to be bigger. And I just went to the, that file and kind of changed it. And over here, this is just kind of all a little bit messed up here. And then over here, it's just kind of, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think like I'm super blown away yet, but I mean, I could add another feature. Maybe I'll just have it add a feature because somebody basically requested in my GitHub repo that they wanted, if they give it SRT, if they get timestamps back from the thing, they want to be able to control it. So let me go ahead and see if I could just give it that feature. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is hit plus. And so we're just going to run the model again. So we're currently in max mode. We have Opus set here. So Opus max. And so we had Claude 4 Opus. So there's two models for Claude 4 Opus. There's a thinking model, which is what you see here with the little brain. So this is going to be doing its thinking here. And this is also the non-thinking model. So this is just, YOLO as far as like Opus. I'm curious to take a look at this Claude Sonnet 4 model. I mean, I don't know what the difference is going to be here, but I guess thinking versus non-thinking. Let's Claude 4 Sonnet thinking. And I want to see if it can actually implement a feature here. And this will just be like, I want to be able to have users select the number of timestamps that they want to get back. I'm using the Vercel AI SDK, and I'd like you to implement the Zod schema validation. So Vercel AI SDK has a feature which will allow you to verify the output to make sure that the generated output for the timestamps numbers matches what the user requested. So if they requested 3 timestamps, we should be able to verify that. And if the timestamps go for like a 2-hour video, we don't want all the timestamps all from the front. We want it kind of spread out. So I'm basically using that. So I'll use WhisperFlow to kind of generate this prompt, and then we're just going to let the agent go. So we're going to be trying the Claude 4 Sonnet Max model here in Cursor, and you're going to see how it implements this. So this is like very specific instructions because I've played around with the Vercel AI SDK. Implementing this myself could take a little while, but that's what AI is here for. And so when I'm running this in Cursor, the price that I'm paying is basically, out of pocket. And so from there, basically what that means is that Cursor is charging a little bit of a fee, to get the model available and access to me. And I think as of now, during this time period of the release of the model, they actually do have a temporary discount. I think, what did they say here? It says something about, I think because it's running, it kind of redraws the screen. Electron apps are so fun. We'll kind of take a look at there. But yeah, this is kind of it running here. And it's actually kind of searching through the app to figure out what it needs to do there. So I actually have a rules file, and I forgot to give it to the actual model, but somehow Cursor is already picking it up. So my rules file for the Vercel SDK is defined in here, along with the links for the documentation, which is super helpful. And it even tells it about the core functionality of what hooks it should be using, which is pretty awesome. And I'm glad it actually found it. It's really cool. So it's gone into my schemas file, and it looks like it's adding the schema for how we're going to do the timestamp verification. This is really awesome, actually. So now let me update the API route to use the standard input. So like, this is great. This is probably, I imagine, how I would implement it. This is amazing. Yeah. So we're, what's really interesting is that I'm not having those timeouts like I was seeing before. So they probably fixed some infrastructure issues here before. So, that's really awesome.
Yeah, I really do think it's if Cursor just let you set a different limit for the tool call limits, that would be so nice. Because it's not like Cursor needed to stop. I wonder whether they needed it to stop so that it doesn't burn out people's credits, or whether they want to make it so that people don't burn out Cursor's credits. Because if it requires people to constantly check back so that the throughput is a lot lower, because they could have literally just opened up a setting for this. I know client has a setting for this, and then you can just tweak to whatever, right? Or just YOLO never finish. And,
when I spoke to the Cursor team, they said that they had to kind of cap it off because it would in the previous models, like the older models, would kind of go into this loop, exactly what you're saying. So it would just kind of loop itself and kind of say, okay, I'm trying to fix this lint. And so it couldn't figure itself a way out, and it would just burn through people's stuff. So they kind of had to set a hard limit. So there was like some interruptibility for that. And then I think right now, if you do go past the tool call, like limit, I forget what the exact number is. There's like a continue button so that you can actually continue. So like if you're actually really happy, you can just say, hey, I wanted to continue this tool call so that you can continue to do its thing. So it's kind of cool. So like this is a pretty big feature that I just described in one shot. It basically thought for 3 seconds and it kind of understood what it needed to do as far as like what files it needed to find. And so we're just basically relying on Cursor's infrastructure here to sort of generate its own little to-do file. And it's kind of going through and doing all this back to back, which is pretty awesome. So it's like, okay, now we're going through the different files and now we're going to actually do this new select primitive. And it's actually, I think it's just wrote the code instead of actually doing the shadcn install. But yeah, it's okay. I don't know if I actually have that as a rule file set up. Yeah. Do I have it?
Honestly, I think that's one of,
yeah.
I think that's literally one of the hardest things to get AI to do. I think it doesn't matter the coding agents. Getting AI to use shadcn consistently is so difficult.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, I need to install this. It's like, no, it's actually defined here. I said add a component using this. That's interesting. So like it tells you, right? Like, is it the intelligence? Is it the model? Is it the IDE? I don't know, you know? I'm really curious to run this on the CLI, just like this exact command and see kind of what I would get. So I might do that. I might stash this and see if I can run this in the CLI. But before that, I might actually upgrade to the max plan because that way I don't get hit with the API cost, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think definitely worth comparing because depending on whether we still have enough time, I think you might want to put in the same mega prompt into Claude Code and see how well it does.
Exactly.
I'd be curious. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think people are definitely appreciating like the stream and kind of us taking a look at it, saying like the coding IDE might be toast. Thanks for the tips. Yeah, I should stop using Emacs now. That's really interesting.
Yeah, Emacs is good. I think Emacs with Claude Code could work perfectly.
Yeah.
Run Claude Code in the Emacs terminal and have your editor on top. Done.
So yeah, so Drino Man says it's 25. So like I guess you could do 25 tool calls before Cursor says I need to chill. Yeah, too many interactions, limited context might be similar to fine tuning if it's done too much. So okay, that's interesting. Cool. Whoa. Wow. So yeah, I think it's still doing its thing. It's definitely cooking though. I'm curious to see. Oh, it's running the app now. So like, let me also create a simple test to verify our schema validation is working correctly. Yo, okay. I didn't actually prompt it to do any testing or anything in my actual rules files. I don't test, bro. I only test in production.
I mean, that's the only test that's necessary, right?
Dude, this is sweet.
I think this is one of the most interesting things with these kind of background agentic coding IDEs, right? I mean, or just background agentic coding agents, because it almost doesn't matter whether it's fast or slow anymore, because if it runs on the background, as long as it completes a task, you shouldn't really need to care about how long it takes, because if you're going to context switch away, ideally online rules way works better. And I actually do think that. I
actually do think that's actually a useful thing. It's sometimes not bad just to start fresh and then build in as you need it, because these models have gotten more intelligent, you know?
Yeah. And I think my workflow has always been every few weeks, I run the same task. I have like mini benchmarks in the same code, because you can go back in history, go back to the same commit and run different models with the same commit and the same task and see how well it does on the same prompt.
Wow.
Then you can run it without your rules to see if it does better. If it does, then you know to remove it. And or if it's still better, then great. And the other workflow that I think works quite well is this works for all coding agents. Just ask the coding agents to update rules itself.
Oh, yes.
And ask it to compact the rules. It will work quite well to clean up a lot of the structure and remove some of the unnecessary lines. I know that Claude has this built in, which is convenient, but I think Cursor and WinServe can also do it just by prompting it.
Wow. Look at this. It wrote a README file for this feature that I defined, and it wrote it better than I even defined the feature itself. Along with like, it's like, here's a key feature that we just dropped. It's like, dude, this is amazing. It even has the schema validation stuff, even distribution for long videos. This is feeling AGI like, and it uses the stream object from the Vercel AI SDK. This is gorgeous. Like it knows what that means and how to use it. Man, this is, dude, I'm blown away. Okay, the other thing that shocked me too was this schema validation. Like it literally wrote its own test. Like who does that, right? That's something that I wasn't expecting really in this type of file. Like I didn't even have testing in this type of thing. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to give it like an example and see kind of what happens. That is amazing. So yeah, this basically wrote it all out. It gave me everything here. So now if I just go back to here and just refresh. So if I select the file and I say like, this is my SRT file, boom, I failed. Actually, let me reload. I think there's a problem because the bun run dev is in 3001. So yeah, so the IDE is running it on its own process and not in the other process I was running, which is kind of why it failed. So I'm going to go back to here and we have a bug. So there's a runtime error. So the select is not defined. Why? I don't know. Let's see. And it should, I'm curious to see why I didn't pick that up. So I just hit copy and then I say, boop. You know, we're just vibing right now. So we should just kind of like let it see if it can fix itself. That's interesting. User selected. So we're currently running the Claude 4 Sonnet model in max mode using Cursor. And it looks like I just gave it the output from the web. And it's like, yes, that's right. I need to put it in here. I forgot to put it in there. So that's an interesting that it kind of messed that type of thing up, you know? It's like, okay, let's see. So now we're able to select the number of timestamps. So we can say I want 3, and it should be able to theoretically generate 3. And because it's like a 2-hour live stream that I did, it should just give me timestamps from that range. But we'll see. I didn't get to look at the implementation as far as like, is it giving that number into my prompt and doing that back? I'm also curious to see what the actual call is from the route handler. Like, is it actually using the schema validation like it's saying it is? The fact that it's hanging tells me that maybe it is doing some type of validation and we're just kind of still waiting. So while that's going, I'm going to see if I can just kind of do a quick audit of the code, just like an eye check of the route, kind of push this aside and then push this bottom one aside for now. Let's see. So it touched, let's see, this select file for our number for the timestamp. We have the timestamp in here. And then what else is going on? We just did some stuff to, so now we have a count selector for the timestamps. And then we're doing to show, this is kind of what gets sent back to the back end. So we do generate timestamp counts timestamps. Okay, so that's what we're sending maybe to the route handler. I don't really know. Let's see. In here, we're now using this new generate API request schema with timestamps output schema. So we give it the schema file. And then what else are we doing here? So we have timestamp count. And then we're actually doing a total video second. So this is doing the calculation for the video. It looks like it did update the prompt, which is cool. And actually what's really interesting is that the prompt that it sends up to I'm using Google Gemini for generating this type of prompt. It's actually putting that into my requirements like it did before, but it's actually putting it as part of the critical steps. So it's really interesting to see Claude 4 models actually go into the prompt and then massage it. And like I didn't give it those explicit instructions, but it knew from looking at my code and going up the chain that it's able to understand that. I think that's a really interesting approach because previously I'd have to do secondary steps to say, okay, now update the prompt in here. So this is really interesting to kind of go through the code and see what it's doing. And it says, like, this is a really interesting thing. So in the system prompt that it's sending up for the API request, it actually says, like, it changed my whole thing. It says, here's a distribution strategy. So it's telling the language model on the way up saying, this is my actual minutes of this video. And here's the timestamps. Give them to me evenly distributed.
Did you prompt it to do that? Or did it just do that by itself?
It just did that by itself.
That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah. And so I think it got rid of my like example. And I'm curious why I got rid of the example, because, it says you must return JSON object with the following structure. See, this is kind of may not be needed because with the Vercel AI SDK, whenever you have like the Zod schema validation, it should already kind of send that back up into its prompt. You don't necessarily need to put that into its system prompt, but that's something I could double check with Nico to be sure. Because yeah, whenever you do a stream object call, I think you pass in the Zod stream object, and then it will just do it'll kind of sort of include that into its type of thing here. So transform the structured output into a stream for UI compatibility. So it's now basically bringing this back. I don't think we actually need to do this either. So I'm just really curious because it didn't really work. So it says generate. Let me refresh this. I don't think it generated the timestamps, to be honest. Let's see. 3. Because I think it actually just failed straight up. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see the timestamps. Yeah. So I could just say, yeah. So I don't see the timestamps that are generated. And can you just double check on the web, especially with the structured output validation and the stream response, because we're using the Vercel AI SDK here. And so I'm basically going to just tell it to see if it can understand and fix itself, if you know what I mean, on the @web, right? Do we still have web as a tool? I don't see web, right? Oh, here we go. Cool. Okay, cool. So I'm just really curious to see what's going to happen here and see, you know, what it's going to do or what its decision is, and see if it's, to me, I can kind of, I think it's like it gets it's getting the response back, but it's probably not in that schema, and it's just kind of barfing here, if you know what I mean. So, and that's kind of why it's not showing it to us, because it's expecting a certain structure, and we're probably not getting that back. And so I'm basically telling it to just double check its work and then seeing if it's going to actually fit with the what we should be doing here. So yeah, use stream text with, and then stream object. Yeah, yep, I thought so. Okay, cool. Sweet. Yeah, interesting. Huh. So yeah, we're going to let Cursor kind of continue to cook there. So that's an interesting thing. It's interesting coding with Cursor and using it here. Does Claude Code have access to the web?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And actually, I can show you the bug fixing that we kicked off a while ago.
Sure,
and
sure,
it's completed.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I want to see it.
So first, if we look back, I think this is the thing with these coding agents is if it can just run by itself without too much supervision, even if it does a bad job but not asking you for the menial like confirmations, it's just so much nicer. And I think this is a part where I feel like Claude Code does the best. And so what's interesting is that it went through the whole code base. Now this time it took, 50,000 tokens. So for Cursor, I know the context window limit is 120, right? So that's already like squeezing more than 3/3 into that context window. Took 2.5 minutes, and then found 10 bugs that's throughout the repository, and some import issues, wrong database schemas, because this is definitely one of my earliest vibe coded code bases. I think this was using Claude 3.5 in Cursor from 7 months ago. This was my first version, and I just recently picked it up again. So interesting to see it like just picking up a lot of the issues I didn't find before, labeling it into different severities. And because they already finished it while you were doing the demo, so I asked it to fix all bugs as well following that.
Nice.
And then later, let me scroll down. I think this thing somehow streaming freezes my window quite a bit.
Oh, interesting.
Why is that?
You need more GPUs, bro.
I need more GPUs. I need my Mac Studio. More money to Apple.
More money to Apple.
I'm only on a Mac Mini.
Yeah, drop the like, subscribe. Where can they send your PayPal? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Buy me a lot of coffees. And,
yeah.
Oh, come on. Why are you not? Okay, wait. Let me check if I can stop sharing and then reshare to get that thing back.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for those kind of just
So
checking in, let me go ahead and check in on the comments and stuff. See, like Doom's like, see if you can fix the header. Yeah, I think I'll see if I could do that for the next runs. It's not me who runs models locally. Oh, there's like this side discussion right now about running models locally. So Windsurf, that built-in memory sometimes is bad. You tell it to do something new, and then you tell it some specified before. That's why examples are bad. Yeah, I think for those who are checking, Windsurf, the CEO just came on X and posted that the model is currently not yet available. Anthropic, I guess, didn't release it to them, and so they don't yet have it available. And they do have Gemini 2.5 Pro widely available on their app, and they say it works really well, and that they're working to get it integrated. Of course, a lot of people are commenting, "Oh, that's because you guys got bought by OpenAI, XYZ, or something." It's still not confirmed, by the way, from the CEO or from like OpenAI directly. They have not publicly said that they have acquired each other. So that there's only like an article that's been written by Bloomberg, I think, or someone that said that this happened. And so I'm just going off of like when I hear it official, like Sam Altman says we did this. They have a video like with Johnny Ive sitting there, and they're in the coffee bar, like maybe he's sitting at the bar with this CEO of Windsurf, saying that they have acquired each other or something like that. And then they're like,
and
all right,
two headshots right next to each other, one leaning on top of the other.
Yeah, then I'll believe it. You know what I mean? So like that's tough. Whenever you're doing these $1 billion exchanges, you got to have these nice little videos, right? As a courtesy.
Oh yeah, and those $1 million PR articles, and so going through those, when I ask it to fix all 10 issues, again, this Claude Code is using a mixture of Opus and Sonnet. And I've actually looked behind the scenes for its actual API calls for more planning related work. It will use Opus to do to be the architect of the overall task. And then it will use Sonnet to do the actual application, to do the actual code writing, and then Opus to come back, then to check the progress, and then to confirm. So very interesting to, at the end, as previously shown, it will create the to-dos. So it created to-do for every single one of the bugs, and then fix them one by one going through the list. And at the end, again, remember to run lint and then fix all of the issues at the end. So this whole run took about 10 minutes while Ray Yu talked, but it did fix everything. And I did a quick check of the code. It looked correct, and everything still compiles. My website still runs fine, and I just did a quick feature check, and then that was okay. And so this is another part of me that I've been thinking quite a lot about, whether model intelligence is the most important thing right now, because I think a lot of the most advanced ones, they are all up there, right? Because even if you look at, I can probably share the release notes from Anthropic. This page. Oh, turn off audio. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. If you look at the benchmarks, Claude 4, yes, it's better than Code X1. It's better than O1 and Gemini Pro. But then really, like 69% to 72 or 63 to 70, I think to most of our current use cases, this is marginal increases. It's not like it was at 10% going into 50, therefore we're going to feel a huge difference. So now, having compared IDEs quite a bit more, it feels like the agentic flow is what really makes a difference. So a powerful model on top, together with a great agentic workflow, it makes a world of difference. So I think maybe, I mean, Claude doesn't let us do it. If Claude Code allows us to swap out the model, I'd love to, swap out, use the same agentic workflow, swap out for R1, swap out for Gemini 2.5 Pro, and then all use, like Codex, or Gemma, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And Quen. And that would be really interesting. And the guy talking about, amazing. Like local models.
Yeah.
I know Anthropic has built a great agentic flow, but they don't let you switch out the model. I guess that's one of a way to convince all of us to buy Claude Max, which given that subscription now, I think they will never open source it. I was one of those. I was constantly commenting under that every single one of their tweets going, when open source? When open source? When open source? But I also previously predicted that to say, okay, I'm pretty sure they're going to add it to subscription. But the moment they add it to the subscription is also the moment I know that open source route is definitely dead. Because when they have such a great agentic workflow, why would they make it open source?
That's facts.
So yeah.
So
So
I guess we can kind of
just a bit of
explain a little
thoughts.
bit
Yeah.
to those are watching and kind of talk about like agentic workflow and kind of what does this really mean? And in my understanding, whenever like, I guess we'll kind of take it back to the beginnings of these like language models. This like ChatGPT came out and that was kind of like the breakthrough. It's like, hey, you can give it some instructions and it comes back as this little chat thing. And so how that has evolved is that, you know, we've gone into like a lot of different spaces, what they call like thinking, and then we call like tool calling, or some people have like, you know, agents and stuff. It's where you have the language model do something and then it can just go out to like a specific piece of code or a piece of software to do some additional tasks and then bring that back in. And then you can kind of combine that together. So you just kind of keep chaining together these like tool calls. So typically you would have to just, you know, by hand copy and paste from different sources and put all this stuff together to make something that, you know, seemed kind of magical. And, you know, who wants to do this stuff when you have computers now, right? So the agents can act on these behalfs, and that's kind of what's built into Cursor, right? So Cursor has their own like agents or own machine learning models and other types of things that are working in the software that will try to do this type of thing so that they can kind of surface that to, you know, make the app experience really good. And so, you know, Claude Code is kind of doing that, but in a sort of non-UI type of way. It has UI in the terminal, right? But is that kind of what we should be thinking about in terms of agents, or how are you kind of thinking about?
The way I think about agents is I'm more excited about one of Cursor's newest features for the background agents. I know you posted a tweet when it first came out, and because as previously mentioned, I think model intelligence is already smart enough where most issues could be solved. It's a question of how you find the right context for it and how you give it the right tools so that it can know how to debug, search for solutions on the internet, verify it's all got the correct solution, and also it's about the person's capability to actually write good code. But yeah, and to me, great agents doesn't necessarily need a UI. I think they need great review interfaces because for most agents, I think the best agents, you want to, much like Codex, you want to ping off a lot of tasks all at the same time, and you are the architect for your product. And then just think about, okay, my customer needed this. I've gotten this feedback, or maybe even have the feedback loop automatically surface from your customer support emails, right? And then have it automatically suggest GitHub issues that tags Claude, Claude implements it, gets you the code to review, and then the only thing that you end up doing is checking, is it correct, or is the product going in the right direction? So my prediction is that by the end of the year, I think what's more important, what's more interesting are those kind of background agents, like, you know, having Claude Code inside of a GitHub Actions, or having the Jules by Google, their coding agents that connects to GitHub, runs things in the background, and then Codex. We even see Cursor going down the same route, right? With the background agents. I wouldn't be surprised if Windsurf comes out with something similar or integrates more natively with Codex. Oh man, that would be so good. If Windsurf integrates natively with Codex, imagine, you know, you find a bug, just ping off your bug fix inside of Windsurf to a Codex run so that you continue with your actual feature work, and then the thing just still gets fixed by Codex. Man, that would be just the dream, right? Then you just focus on the hard work, and then you can pass off the mini features, the minor thoughts that you have, the improvements onto Codex. That does great, right?
Man, that's super cool. And then you can act Claude every so often, right?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, because I think of Claude as a separate entity, right? Like as a, you know, cracked engineer who's just like, you know, if you were to actually kind of make a little character of Claude, you know, you would design him and just like glasses on, hat, like chilling, dark room. It's like, you know, just like, okay, I got you, man. Yeah, you want me to rewrite this whole thing? That's cool. I got it. Just come back in 30 minutes. You know, it's like that's like, you know, Claude has its own like mood, right? It's like, oh, you're trying to tell me to make some terrorist thing? No, I've already coded something that's going to lock you out of this, and security is already on its way. It's like, I don't mess with you. I'm on my own brain. You know, it's like,
yeah. And one workflow I'd really love for people to automate is that, you know, if Codex fails, bring in Claude Code. Claude Code fails, bring in rules, and then kind of just cycle through them. It's like, come on, one of you is gonna solve the problem, right? And
Yo,
then,
I got this. It's called MCP, 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 MCP. Yeah.
So basically, we have MCPs with Claude Code, calling tools, calling codecs, calling Claude Code, right?
Yeah, you don't need any more if-else statements. You just like MCP itself. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna make one that makes myself irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is another interesting thing I can also show on my screen here. Is so and let me switch to the right tab. So this one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm in. So for this, so before Claude Code released their GitHub Actions workflow, I was actually like building my own just with Claude Code running in the cloud. So because I quite like Claude Code, given its command line interface, you can automate whatever you want given the right API keys. So I'd actually built this tool. I was planning on actually publishing it, and but maybe I still feel like my workflow got some still improvements on top of Claude's one that they've currently released, and currently called Nobody, and it helps you dealing with no conditions. So it's a Nobody. So what it does, much like Claude Code, it takes in the repository, but I've given it a whole bunch of prompt templates so that it uses the prompt templates to analyze my repo, analyze the GitHub issue I've given it. And then, so this was for one of my scraper devices, and to say, okay, I need a meta scraper device that manages multiple scrapers running at the same time. And then it kind of creates this task, describes it in way more detail, and then tells me the file is going to modify, the changes it's going to make, the potential challenges it think it might face, and then gives me the testing approaches. And because with Claude CLI, you can also build these kind of your own custom workflows to fit your liking, because here it doesn't implement and it just gives me the plan in the comment. And then I can still reply to it and it will reply to my comment. Again, all of this is built integrated using GitHub Actions. At the end, when I'm happy with the code change, and then I can just go like with a GitHub label, I've got another one for, ready for development. Once I add that label, it will kick off. And so it's just here. So once I add that label, it will kick off a GitHub Actions workflow again to start in the implementation to create the PR. So this one, I don't even need to click on the button to create the PR. It will create it for me on the back end. And so it will then comment on the PR to say, hey, I did this change. Go check out the PR. So I think this is an interesting thing when you get the CLI, because this is why I think for OpenAI, when they have the Codex CLI, which doesn't have access to their cloud Codex models, could also be quite interesting if they release the same kind of agentic workflow into the local CLI. And then you also have the Google and Windsurf, if they wanted to, I'm pretty sure they can build their CLI equivalents relatively easily. So I would be very excited if those guys try to build CLI ones, because then you can integrate them in all kinds of places, like run it in your GitHub repository or run parallel ones in multiple folders, right? If you check out multiple folders locally, you don't need a GitHub Actions to be able to parallelize your work. And I know a lot of people commented on the fact that, the future is about parallel execution. I cannot agree more, because then even locally, you can run multiple tasks at the same time, as long as you're not stepping on your own toe by having features that kind of touch the same file. So standard good software practice still applies. That's where I think it's actually quite exciting, looking into the future of more just parallel execution. And then it means that we get to do a lot more designing and architecting, and then less coding. And sounds a bit boring, but at the end, we get more exciting and featureful products. I'm all for that.
What do you think can help someone who has maybe been coding for a while and maybe they're junior level, or they're really kind of got proficient with vibe coding? What kind of thing that you can point them to that can say, maybe you start to look at this for architecture, or maybe what was one concept maybe they can start Googling or using AI to help them teach them on how to design in this type of thinking? Because it is a different way of thinking, right? You're going from when you're a junior engineer, you're just taking tasks and you're just trying to run them. Yeah. Where now when you're thinking about as a senior engineer, you're kind of graduating, you're thinking okay, if I structure the data this way, or if I think about it this way, I now have a stamping factory pattern now that can just do this over and over again. And now I could just delegate that to the AI to keep doing these types of, system level thinking. So what would you suggest that maybe someone can learn or start looking up, or any key terms that they should start to be aware of? Yeah.
I'd say think more like a product manager rather than an engineer. And I think there's plenty of good articles and great YouTube channels that talks about the product mindset, because then you think of the problem that you're trying to solve and the audience that you're trying to impress and also provide values to, right? Because then you focus on, okay, you need to resolve this issue rather than, oh, hey, like you need to like do this exact thing. And because I think with most vibe coding, you kind of just focus on, I just did this. How can I add another thing, add another thing, add another thing? And then rather than, okay, what is the problem I'm trying to solve for most people? I say like thinking with a product mindset on, that's probably the first thing. The second would be, I know I post too many tweets about this, write tests. Please write tests. It's like tests is one of the most powerful things, I think, especially in the agentic world that we're heading into, mostly because with tests, you give agents the capability to self-iterate. Because without tests, it will do something and come back to you to say, hey, Ray, go check this. And then you go, okay, I'll check it. I have no idea whether it works or not. We kind of click through the UI and then go, oh wait, this is thing's broken. That button looks a bit weird. Why do you do that, right? And but if you had tests in place, it's make the change, run the test. If it fails, fix it. And then because say with agents like Claude Code and Codex, it's able to just constantly iterate and happily continuing without until it iterates to success. Then it only presents a solution to you when it knows that either, oh, dude, I tried for 30 minutes, but I still failed. I need you now. Or, okay, after 10 tries, I fixed all the bugs. I know the first 2 was bad, but here's a right solution. So learning to write good tests, I think, is another critical skill to have, probably even more important than knowing how to just write good code. But then again, to know how to write good tests, you also need to know how to write good code. So it's kind of a good side effect. And I'd suggest also potentially starting with end-to-end tests in most cases, because that gives you the proper full-on, say like with busfactor, I was just this morning trying to add a few more integration tests where testing the full GitHub login flow and then testing a new repo being indexed and then showing all of the correct metrics. Because when you have that, after this bug fix, I can just run those integration tests, run those end-to-end tests, and then have it confirm everything's still working, and then come back. So,
yeah, that's a good point. I think
those
you
two
can,
things. Yeah,
yeah, and testing doesn't necessarily have to be that structured. I feel like if you're still new to this software engineering organization thinking, is that literally just pick up a device and try to use it, right? As a user, if you're picking up an app for the first time, what do? You launch the app, whatever is presented, you go through a workflow. And if you can write that down, just write down what exactly happened in those steps, that's a test. Literally, it's like launch my app, log in. Do you have an onboarding screen? Click through those screens. That's your first test. You want that to be repeatable and happening every time. And that's like got to work every time, because that's the first experience. And then later on, you'll get more experience in terms of figuring out, okay, these are the most important things that always need to work, because if I'm onboarding new users, at least this needs to work like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you can just say, okay, like run these tests after every specific commit or before we check stuff in, just to make sure that these don't break. And that's kind of like maybe like a different stream that we'll get into as far as like test driven, development or other testing theories and methodologies for like QA related stuff. But I also wanted to kind of play
100%.
around a little bit with an idea here that I had, because my actual neighbor here, I'm here in Hawaii, and so we have a canoe club, and then they have like an afternoon like informal thing with their friends. And so what they do is they basically kind of say, hey, are you ready to meet up? And there's like it's a 6-man Outrigger Canoe. And so they all have to kind of like text each other and say who's in, who's not. And they, there's a lot of back and forth and chatter. And it's like, why can't they just go to a website saying I'm in or I'm not, or they can text back. And so, all of this is done over email. And if somebody didn't check the email, then they get a text or they have to receive a phone call. And I thought, maybe this would be a good time to exercise Claude to see if it can actually generate an app on the fly for us and see, how good is it? I haven't done this in a while, and it'd just be kind of cool to get some like information and kind of give it some scope and see it generate an app, right? And so I think should we use Opus or Sonnet?
Shall we be brave and use Opus and see if Opus can do it? Then we can give Sonnet a try.
Yeah, I'll try Opus, and if it doesn't work, I'll probably upgrade to the max plan because I don't have the max plan, so I'm just really curious how fast I'm going to burn through it. I have extended thinking turned on, and then I think that's it. I have web search, but I don't think I need web search. So what I would do is I'm going to paste in some examples of the emails that I got for this specific problem. So in this specific workflow, this is kind of what's happening is like each of these guys will basically send an email saying, something happened and who's, what's the current setup and stuff. So then I was starting to describe the problem, but I'm basically just going to use voice to dictate the rest of it. So I want to see if it can actually help me make an app that'll keep track of the people who are paddling for the Outrigger Canoe. The canoe is a 6-man canoe, and there's a group of people who will be participating, and we need to know that we have 6 people. Obviously, there's going to be a person who's doing steering here, and it happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then what I'm going to do is hit Shift and Enter to get a couple more new lines and describe. I think I want to see if it can actually generate like an admin interface and also maybe generate like an interface for users who are not the admins. So I'm going to describe those to this now. I want you to also create an admin interface for the person who can add the paddlers in and add, the order and perhaps, figure out the scheduling of the days. It's usually done by John here. He's the one that's kind of coordinating everything. So would basically be the admin. So he needs a way to kind of view and update these types of things. And the main view that I want is that most people can log into the website or just go to the website directly and see what day they are assigned to, whether it's Tuesday or Thursday. And then if someone's missing or if we need someone, they should be able to say, I am in or I'm not in. And this is just going to be a central way for everyone to know whether they're going to be participating or not. Ideally, in the future, we would be able to send notifications to each of the users to say, hey, this person's out. Do you want in? And this should also work for a person, like if they are no longer able to make it, that they can go in and say, hey, I can't make it. And then, send a message out to everyone else to see if they're available. And then, so I'm just going to add a little bit more context to the bottom saying, below are all the email exchanges that would typically happen for this. So we're trying to build an app so that we no longer have to send a bunch of emails to each other. So basically, I just described a really simple app, I guess, with some context in the emails. And we're going to use the Claude 4 Opus. We're basically using the web model here. What's up?
Do you mind just pasting me that prompt? And,
Sure.
in the same time, I can try to run it in Claude Code so we can actually compare the output.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Let me see if I can send you. Oh, okay. I'm going to send it to you on X so that we can get that going. So I'm going to get this. I'm going to send you. Yeah, I'm going to get this going over. Before I send that, let me just make sure I can pull up X because X is not. Okay, now I think X is back up. Hopefully. Maybe I can get X back up in Safari. So that way you can kind of do it as well. So basically, thanks to everyone for kind of standing by because I'm really curious to run this. We're going to see if we can run this in parallel, which would be actually kind of cool. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, wow. So it's not letting me. I'm going to see if I could put this in a gist or something so that way I can give you that link so they can do it there. Okay. So let's see here. Okay.
This is going to be funny. We're racing Claude against Claude to see which Claude is better.
Yeah. Let's see. Gist, GitHub, gist. I think I don't have it here. GistHub. Let's see. Paste. Okay, cool. So create gist. Sure.
Is it gist or gist? I
say gist, but it's probably gists. I don't know. It's a G, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I say gist as well. So I'm
Let's
glad
see.
we're on the same line.
Just. Let me just kind of open up an incognito window. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me send you this link here. Cool. I think you should be able to get it. So now we have
Okay,
the
I'm gonna
entire
check my
thing in here.
X.
Cool. Oh, it's not on X. It's on the interview chat. So,
Oh yeah. Okay.
oh yeah.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah, X is down for me, so I can't send any messages or receive them. But yeah, so basically, if you do it in Claude Code, you're basically, you won't be able to select the model. You won't say like, I want Opus with extended thinking and stuff.
Yeah, we'll let Claude Code decide on itself which one it should use. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit run now. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna hit run.
I've just hit run on my side.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Okay, so it's going here, and then I can see
I can
your
also
screen if you
share the
want.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you ever want
Yeah.
to switch back and forth.
Oh, cool. Oh my God. So it's actually, because you have an empty directory, it's now creating the actual app, right? Like the next app or whatever it's doing.
Yep. We'll see how well
Interesting.
it does.
Yeah.
And it's even doing all of the installs.
Yeah.
Maybe
look
you'll
at
run,
here.
maybe you won't.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun to see the user interface and seeing kind of what it's doing. It's kind of funny because it's like, oh, I've always wanted to make this app, because just to surprise my neighbor, as far as to make his job easier. And now with this new model release, what a better time to test this. While it's going, I'm going to close the windows because somebody's just starting some yard work, and I'll be right back. I can show your screen, maybe. Let's see. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Yeah, because yours is going through Claude Code. Okay. Or which one's more interesting? I'm going to put mine, maybe. Yeah, let's see if I can show mine. Okay. Yeah, I'll be right back. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
We back, folks. Yo. Oh my God. Okay. What do we have here? That was fast.
Yours was way quicker. I'm only halfway through my to-dos.
Wow. I'm super surprised, actually. Huh. Interesting. Let me see if I can kind of get my screen back up here.
It's even got the admin login. Does that work?
Yeah. Admin mode? Yeah. Dude, this is crazy. No way, bro. Dude, that was fast. Schedule?
That was really quick.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So I could do manage, add paddler, YOLO. I don't know what's going on with my thing. Oh. Test. Yeah. Cancel session.
Actually, how does it store the data? Is it just locally in the
I think it's all local.
in the local state, I'm guessing?
Yeah, because it's using a simple data structure. Yeah, it just prototyped it. That's hot. Availability modal. Okay. Add a paddler modal.
So
yeah. Just show an add paddler false. Let's see. Set current view. On click admin, add paddler, availability. So when we add a paddler, I think it just sets it as an array. I don't know who's calling add paddler. There's a function, use state. Okay. Set paddler. So outrigger app. Yeah. So I think it just adds it into this little outrigger app. Huh. That's awesome. Holy smokes. How's your setup doing there?
it's currently going through creating the backend API for even doing authentication. So it's
Oh my
doing the
God.
full database state setup. and using a local
Whoa.
SQL3 Lite database, and then still happily implementing right now. And
Oh my
I think just
God.
using JSX, using the React in type JavaScript.
Interesting.
Let's see whether it can one shot this, because I would be interested. I'm wondering because the Claude web interface, it was optimized to just code one-page apps, right?
Yes,
And they won't be
exactly.
able to deal with any backend data stores. Therefore, I
Right.
think we'll get a slightly different system instruction to create that. But
Exactly.
the speed,
Yes.
that I
With
was not
Opus, by the
expecting
way.
that, to be honest. Yeah, because
Yeah,
Opus
I was
was
expecting it to go so slow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, that is amazing. Yeah, it's one shotted. I mean, it's a React app. It's great. I mean, it's a great start. Wow. Admin
because
mode? Yeah.
maybe it's easier to
Right.
one shot it in the web, especially if it's a simpler interface, and then take a one shotted web page and
Yes.
then go to Claude Code to implement the local version with databases. Maybe that's going to be faster. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, so you
Feels
can
like
click.
could be.
Yeah, you could say like Leroy, say I can't make it, and then he. That's crazy. Yeah, you could say, okay, I'm available. Wow, that's awesome. That's actually kind of funny. Yeah, it's funny because it's a really simple app, but I mean, I love this. Can be done on the phone. Like you can, like I literally just use dictation, right? I'm using a thing called Whisper Flow. So Whisper Flow, I think
I was going to ask.
yeah, WISPR Flow, I think. Yeah. So Whisper Flow will basically, to me, I use it a lot because it's super accurate. It tries to get the stuff on the screen. I love all the privacy features that they have as far as like, not training on your data and everything. And so they have one thing. I actually do have like a referral if you want to be linked to this, but for the longest time, I actually grilled the founder super hard saying, dude, can you add these features? And he actually did. And so what's really interesting as far as a company or here, so these guys are backed by some pretty cracked folks, and all the engineers are cracked, like from Stanford and these really like amazing institutions and stuff. Let's see about the company. These guys are awesome, and they got some really serious people who are working on this problem. And so I think it's like, if you pay yearly, it's $12 a month, and then like the monthly is like $15 a month. If you use my link, I think I'll give it to you as well, dub.sh. So I'm gonna put that in the chat. Whisper. So if you use this one here, I think it's Whisper. I'll put the QR code up too. This is like my favorite feature. It's like, if you scan this QR code, I'm going to download it. JPEG. So in the chat, and I'll put this in the chat as well here. Let me put this one down. So this will basically get you a month for free to use. So if you want to go ahead and use this coupon code, it's basically, you basically just go to this link, Ray Fernando, or rfer.me/whisper. You can sign up and get a free month, but I use this extensively. It's so super useful. They actually have an iOS app, so if you pay for the pro version, you can use the iOS app, and I use it all the time. So now I reply to every tweet. I literally, like, as I'm walking or whatever, like all of my reply game's super good in emails, like everything. I'm just like constantly hitting that button because typing it was just taking me a very long time, and I definitely like this has been my favorite workflow to do. So definitely check that out if you haven't had a chance. Like, these people don't sponsor me. I if they have the referral thing and I like it, I definitely talk about it because I definitely use it and I like their stuff. So yeah, that's Whisper Flow for those who use it. There's some folks who actually are on the stream who do use it and have been using it for a while. And it's definitely my jam as far as like what I'm using. So I've been vibe coding since GPT-4 Turbo. Imagine how easier it is nowadays. Dude, the game has definitely changed as far as coding with AI, because I started with 3.5 Turbo. And I remember then I was like doing Python and databases and stuff, and I thought it was amazing then. And then I paid for GPT-4, and that was pretty much amazing. So you can one-shot multiple iterations and pick the best one and see what works. That's a really good point. Yeah. So Frank's Thinkus says, I mean, you can build an MVP with a little programming knowledge, of course. Yeah. Download a new version of Z Editor the other day, and they are now trying to hard to add AI. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes. So ask it how it stores the data. Yeah, I guess I can ask the model that. What's really funny is that I'm not paying for like premium or anything. So I'm really curious, how much it's going to really eat away at this type of thing. So I'm going to take a look at this output because it says this is all the thinking thoughts. And so in its thinking process, it thought about, what were the main features that we were trying to track here and like the key entities. So it's funny because I'd even ask it to generate like an entity diagram. It kind of figured that it needed to do that by itself, which I actually found that really surprising, right? And then from the emails I see, and it actually kind of analyzed the emails, which is super interesting here. And it's kind of interesting to watch the model think. So this is Opus. This is Opus with extended thinking. And so we're talking about like the most powerful of the powerful models. And it's really great to see it kind of thinking about these things without kind of really specifically instructing it. It did pick up that it needed a public view, paddler actions, and these mobile-friendly things as well. I didn't say mobile-friendly, but he knows that they're checking it, or the model knows that it's checking it on the go. So I don't know if this is Hawaiian-inspired design, but whatever. So responsive for mobile use. So that's really cool. So then it generated the artifact, and it told us kind of the requirements here as far as like what it was generating, and then how to use this. So just visit the site to see the schedule, click your name to update availability, click admin to access admin features, and then future enhancements to consider. So it's even telling us about the future enhancements and stuff. So why don't we just kind of tell it to implement the future enhancements, right? That looks pretty cool.
Let's do it.
Wow. So I like these enhancements. Cool. Whoa. In-app measuring, comments on sessions. Let's just do the first two, right? Wow. Actually, why don't we just can you implement all the features? Can you please implement all of the future enhancements that you've listed? And this is Claude for Opus. Why not, right? If I have to upgrade my plan, I'll upgrade my plan. I'm really curious to see how long it's going to last, because I'm not really aware of what the actual limits are for normal users. So this would be really cool to see. Like, is it just going to shoot its wad after just one shot of an app? Or is it like, how many iterations can we get before, our regular $20 a month plan or whatever it is kind of, exhausts itself out? So yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, awesome.
Okay,
Opus
my Claude Code one has finished generation.
Yo.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Wait, I'm going to share my window just coming up. And I have no idea what this has done, but to briefly describe, it generated a server directory and it's generated a client and full script to start up both the server and the client at the same time.
Damn.
And I just needed to go in to run the npm installs. And I won't show you the actual details. I think the total run took about, wait, how long did that thing take? I think it was just under 10 minutes to do this whole generation. So because it's got a database, so we're just gonna say like array, we gotta do array@awesome.com, password.
Yeah.
Oh wait, okay, you can log in. Ray, even pre-fills the email for you. Okay,
that's amazing.
Password. We log in.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, I know Chrome. It's okay. Array. Oh wow. So welcome Ray upcoming. So how do I add an admin?
Yeah.
It
or
didn't
how do you
tell
even
me
add
how
like
I add
a
admin? Okay, I'm going to ask Claude. It's like, how do I add a admin? Oh, actually, you know what? I'm just going to do it in the command line. Add ray@awesome.com as a admin.
I don't think Claude 4 is free. I think the web interface still, you have to pay to upgrade, right?
I don't know. They didn't mention anything about it.
Yeah. Because I think you're going to have to pay for that one. Yeah. I wonder if it got good game dev because Claude 3.7 wasn't good at all with... Okay. My main job is web dev. So, yeah. No, please let us know, Gamer Welfare, see how it's doing with the gaming. I would love to hear. Yeah. Yeah, they said they're supposed to fix a bunch of stuff as far as how Claude 3.7 was extremely anxious to go fix and remove things from us. So we'll see. Yeah. So it is free with rate limits. Okay. That kind of makes sense. So what you're doing right now in the background is you're asking the model, where can I do the
to make you
admin
the
stuff?
admin. Yeah, to
Yeah.
make you the new admin. Yeah.
And so here we're basically, it's interesting because I think what yours did in Claude Code was already figured out these enhancements and wrote them in, where it just, for the first version of my app, it just gave me UI and it said, hey, is this kind of the direction you're going before kind of proceeding with the next step? Where it kind of assumed in Claude Code that because you're in Claude Code maybe, that like you're actually going to go all in. So, and yeah, dude, this is amazing. How it keeps, yeah. Oh, whoa. How did you get there?
Add new palette. So I just asked Claude to add you as the admin and give it an email. It wrote the script to update the database to then add you as the admin. So,
dude, that's crazy.
So
you can select the calendar on the right. Yeah.
And okay, so I got a normal widgets, day of the week. I guess this is based on your description. So weather, let's go sunny, wind speed. Oh wow, and the 50 mph. So notes, create schedule.
Assign.
You can assign paddler. Oh, look at this. Wow. Steering position.
That's cool.
So
on bench,
assign paddler. And then if you go to schedule, there you go. This is with a full database with login, with admin, with the user, and all set up. It actually works. I wasn't expecting it to work, to be honest, because normally when you one-shot apps, it's mostly just UI or just front end, but this one did everything in one go. And I'll also switch back over to the
with an admin
command line window.
That's crazy.
You can see the previous generation. If I scroll up here, here's when it finished, I think. Notification. Oh yeah, here was the place when it finished. You can see when it completed, it told me that it added all of these features: the public schedules, user authentication, personal dashboard, admin, availability, weather tracking, cancellation support, even cancellation, useful.
Wow.
And so you have users, schedules, assignments, and then it generated a new repository and then had a server and a client folder. I mean, I think it could have also generated a Next.js thing to be easier, but maybe it thought it was easier to just write a raw vanilla React app with a backend server. And I just ran the copy and pasted the command it had. It had a root repository running both the server and client concurrently using concurrently package. And then I just opened the port. And I had a port issue initially, and then I asked it to fix. It just basically changed the port to run on somewhere else. And then I asked it to add you at ray@awesome.com as a admin. And then it wrote a script, which it uses Node to run to access the database to add the user.
Wow.
And that was the final app that we had.
Bro, that's amazing. Holy smokes. That is... And does it tell us how many tokens or how much, like, if you do, does cost show us the tokens and stuff? You do /cost?
It doesn't show you the token, I think, unfortunately. Can I see it somewhere up here? And you can see
the reason why we're asking this
went through.
For those who recently just joined is because when you have the max plan, it doesn't actually like tell you how much it costs, really, because it's included in the max plan, all this usage. Otherwise, you would just pay whatever the API fees are for using it in the Claude Code. So yeah, we're kind of testing what the web version does. And it's really interesting to see that the same prompt in two different places kind of running.
Yeah. But I think one thing is clear though. If you want a fast iteration and test concepts, web interfaces is always great because it's optimized just for that extremely fast feedback. But if you want something that's functional, just shove something into Claude Code. And I think it might have just got to the time where, previously we had to use tools like Replit or Google Firebase Studios to get the fully fledged cloud interface to be able to do these kind of full end-to-end app generation, right?
Right.
But given it to Claude Code, you could have literally just asked it then, how can I deploy? And then I'm sure Google or Microsoft would build something that is an MCP for deployment. I think I've seen some open source solutions for that. Plug
That's
that in,
amazing.
deploy, and done, right?
Yeah, so here's the updated version with the authentication system, the advanced notification system, enhanced weather scheduling features, communication hub, data analysis, so like I just gave Opus the job. I said go. And it says for admins like John has drag and drop crew management now. Like it just did all that. And let's see if it did it, you know? Like this is crazy. So if we go to history, we can see the session history now with the weather and then like the actual, you know, types of things here and who's steering and who's on what days. So we go to here and it tells us about the announcement. There's a high wind advisory for here. So the session may be canceled. So you can kind of see that if you're getting started. That is pretty cool. So if you get login, no way, bro. This is crazy. Test. Oh, wow. Let's see. P. I'm having an issue. I don't know what's going on with my Chrome or something where it's like something is stealing the keystrokes. So it could be a Chrome thing. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I think on the bottom hand right corner, there's a button for opening up this artifact in a new window.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if that might help.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. I'm gonna try Safari.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna try this in Safari and just see. Usually Safari is pretty good. Let's see here. This is awesome. So let's see here. Safari. Okay, so the web app would be over here somewhere. Okay, V2. Cool. Yeah, so if I go to login, test. I don't know. It's not really working for me. Oh, demo is John C example. Paste. And then paddle 1, 2, 3. So it actually gave me like a little paste. Yeah, login. Oh, okay, cool. So now I'm in the demo. That's interesting that it built a demo thing. It left it for me there in the chat. Dude, that's hilarious, dude. It's like...
I have to say, your one is way prettier than the Claude Code one. Maybe that's adhering to the web has to look pretty. Command line looks crud.
Whoa, look at this. Oh my gosh. Bruh. This is kind of nice. Oh, wow. I can't make it. And it has a little, that is really nice. And so he said he can drag and drop. I was trying to figure out where you can do that. So schedule, paddlers. Oh, schedule.
Oh, I think schedule. Yeah.
Drag to arrange. Whoa. Look at this.
I feel like the UI has it, but Chrome is not letting you do it. Oh, that's actually physics.
Yeah. What? Steersman, Jess. So it knows who just from the emails, who the steers people are. And here's, look who's on the bench. What? This is actually fire, bro. That's amazing. Like even it tells you the streak for people who's been showing up. So you can actually get a sense of like who's the most reliable on the team. That is actually super fire, man. Add paddler. Conserve. Wow. This is amazing. Wow. And it has notifications there. I can't make it this Tuesday. I need a replacement. Ray F can't make it. So whenever you mark yourself, you get these notifications up here. And this is for John as himself as a user. And man, that's wild. You hit log out. And so whenever you just go to the site, you just see this. And whenever you log in, if you log in as a normal user, then you'll just see your own user interface. This is impressive. And this is all just one file. Look at all the code it wrote. Oh my goodness, dude. That is
I suppose
bonkers.
This actually works better for Opus, right? Given its large context window, it can fit all of this in. So might as well have a single page because if you have multiple files, it might even cause more confusion, right?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I know someone mentioned, maybe the future is just single page HTMLs, which I think definitely a large portion of it can be.
Right.
With a database.
Oh my goodness, though. Like you said, I can now throw this into Cursor, and if I want to hook up my own database, I could do that. And if I wanted my own auth that's not this, I could do that as well. And just keep kind of just
ask
building
it
on top.
Break it up into multiple files once you are happy with the interface here. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness, man. Wow, dude. Can you believe this? Let me look at your screen. Let's see. Like,
What I've asked it to do now is I just said make it prettier with Tailwind and Shadcn, and then it's
okay.
doing the work. So currently
Whoa.
running for nearly 3 minutes now. We'll see how well
5,000
it does.
tokens. Oh my goodness.
Whoa. But again, it's not trying to install the Shadcn components. I don't know why. It's like, seriously, all models, you guys need to get better at using Shadcn. It's just install the thing. It's fine.
Right.
It's
so
not like
easy.
poison.
Oh, wow. Which reminds me, V0 just released their model via API. So I'm really curious to see. I haven't tried it yet because I want to see if that'll do Shadcn installs too, you know?
Yeah. So V0's model as an MCP in Claude Code. There you go.
Yes.
You can use Opus.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Oh. That could work so well.
Yeah. We'll have to test that out because that'd be really cool. What software you use for speech recognition? I'm using this thing called WhisperFlow. I think if you're kind of curious, I actually have a little code here. If you scan this code, let me see if I can kind of show you this, I think over here. So yeah, WhisperFlow, if you scan this QR code and let me see, WhisperFlow. And so the QR code would basically get you, one month of Pro for free, basically. And all I do is hit the button and just talk into it. Basically comes out to $15 a month if you're just doing it, month to month. But if you prepay for the year, $12 a month, phenomenal. Like it understands and learns all your spellings and words and everything like that. I highly recommend it. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually go to the description. I have a link. It's called WhisperFlow to get that month for free. And the reason why I choose this one is because the privacy stuff, and they don't train on your data. They're super awesome. You can opt out of all that stuff and you don't have to worry about, whatever other stuff's going to be sent to someone. And they're trusted folks because I think they come from Stanford. They're all, backed by VCs and stuff. And they're constantly pushing the edge. This is so wild, man. Super, super cool. Wow. Yeah. Let's see what's, I see. Yours is now currently implementing the feature. Yeah.
It's at 10K now. It's trying to rewrite every single one of the Shadcn components. We can see how well it does or how badly it does. But
wow, dude, that's amazing. As far as that's a lot of work. So
happily running for 5 minutes, right? It's going through so many different files, but happily going through all of the change. And by the way, this thing has a integration with the terminal bell so that you can just go away. It will send you a macOS notification when it completes so that you know when to look back.
That's amazing. That's so awesome and super handy for those who are just kind of wondering, oh, should I stay tuned or not? Yeah. And so far when I'm using Opus on the web, I get it seems to be a really pretty interface. But when we're using it in Claude Code, it seems to be very like you said, we're able to basically one-shot a whole front end. Yeah. Really basic front end, a really basic back end with authentication, a database.
Yeah. So with all of the features that you had on the on the web interface, Claude Opus, but a lot less pretty.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it was super dry. You're just like, oh man, what happened? And yeah, it's interesting because there are different instruction sets. And also, it could possibly be different models that are running under the hood, right? It's maybe not all Claude Opus. It could be Claude Sonnet 4, right? Claude.
Yeah, it could be Sonnet 4. Yeah, and I think Opus 4 is just being used for planning, and then the Sonnet 4 is being used for code execution and application.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, wow, that's a huge wow. And I know somebody was talking about, I think it was Matt Schumer. He's using repo prompt. So I think he was using the API on his repo to do something very specific. And he's just calling the API. So I'm really curious to see, because I know the tool calling is kind of the biggest feature here with Claude Code, because it's understanding what your repo is. You've already initialized it. It's crawling through all those files and it's doing that extra sauce, that it does that you wouldn't normally get, right?
Yeah, and also you can just naturally instruct it to search for things on the web as well. there's no @ commands for search on the web. You can paste in a link or just ask it to do something, and it will know to work on and use those tools that's available to it. And also with Claude Code, you also connect to any MCPs you want. The configuration is just like how you set up your Cursor and Windsurf ones. If you've already got the configuration for that, you can link it up directly. The one I always link up is, because I'll always use a Postgres database as backend, I always link up the Postgres MCP, so it makes it easy for the agent to debug any data problems, because the moment you build anything in production, you have a lot of like existing data. You want to make sure that, it's ran some tests, maybe the test left over some residual data causing the test fail. Having those kind of MCP access makes it quite easy. And then going back to a previous point when we were talking about tests, what would be interesting is that, the tools like the Puppeteer MCP, which is giving you the ability to browse, giving the agents the ability to browse the web, right? And I can imagine someone building something a bit more abstract than that and giving the agent the ability to better test. So instead of people having to write hard-coded end-to-end test, but instead of doing that, being able to describe your test in natural language, and then just save that as a .txt file in your repository to say, run this test, and then just have the MCP together with the coding agent kind of orchestrate that test live. It will be slower, it will be slightly less reliable, but a lot more newbie friendly, right?
Yes.
I can imagine like things going that way for the future. But obviously, like if you can write the hard-coded test, do that, because that's going to be faster, way more reliable, and just easier for the coding agent workflow.
Yeah. Yes, because integration is usually the biggest deal whenever you have these code bases. When you're actually writing all the code in these different places, and now you put them together, and then you run it through the build system, you want to see kind of like what's happening on the other end, and whether it's kind of worthwhile here. So it looks like it actually finished.
It looks like it actually finished. I'm going to check if it even compiles.
That's pretty massive.
Wait, how long did it run for? And one
it was
thing
almost
I'm
like
going to
5
check.
minutes, right? Like 600 seconds or something, maybe.
Yeah, and now what is that issue? And it's got Tailwind. Oh yeah, I don't think it's installed Tailwind correctly. Let me just restart the dev server.
Yeah, you may
first.
have to.
Oh yeah,
I
actually,
wonder.
you know what? I might need to do the npm installs in both the server and the client. I could get Claude to do this as well, but we can just do this faster for now.
Of course, yeah.
Npm install.
Yeah.
Okay,
So for those who are just tuning in, we basically have been kind of doing a little bit of coding on like starting an app concept, one on the web. We're using Claude for Opus, specifically with extended thinking, and took that same prompt and also put it into the actual command line. So Claude has a command line called Claude Code, and Yifan basically built it. And we're both very surprised. Like user interface, really nice. Is kind of what we expected before. But the difference is that like both started to kind of build this like back end, and the Claude Code kind of got really detailed in the back end, like more so with login system and everything like that. And now you're kind of trying to make it pretty, and we're going to see what the results are going to be when you make it more pretty, right? And fix the Tailwind configuration, right?
Yeah, I think it's still having issues with that configuration, sadly.
Yeah. And then on my side, as far as like after it did the UI, I gave it it actually had some suggestions after the first prompt so that it can say, okay, now that we made this app, here's what I would actually suggest to make this a better app. So here are the enhancements that I would definitely roll with if you wanted to do that. And I just said, yeah, let's cook. And then it came back with this whole full view with a login. And then even the login gave us like a demo account so that we can log in as John, who's going to be the admin for this. And then he's able to make all these modifications. And then whenever you make any changes for yourself, as far as like when you log in as a paddler, you can say if you're going or not. This is really, really fun. So it's a really interesting way to kind of see, besides looking at an existing code base, how good is it at still like iterating with your own code and kind of understanding what are the capabilities of, Claude Opus. Opus is great in one file. By the way, this is all one file because it's like a React component or something like that. It's a massive thing. And like Yifan was saying, is that because it has this large context window, it's able to take all of this in and basically just do it without any hiccups. I did not have to hit continue or anything like that. It just spit it all out and said, here you go. Like no rate limits, nothing, you know? So I found that really cool. That was really impressive. And then on your end here with Claude Code, you were telling it to convert your app to Tailwind, and now it's kind of floundering, right?
I think it's going down a little bit of a rabbit hole now. I think mostly because one, I think it should have known better to use a proper template somewhere.
Yeah.
And then to set up Tailwind rather than, like to try to do it vanilla. And then for the components, it didn't naturally know to just install the chassis and components directly. I mean, for everyone who's watching, right, this is extremely raw. We are showing you all of the good and bad sides of like what the models are exactly capable for. So this is exactly like the issue that we see. And it says it fixes the issue. But, oh, wait, can I restart? It should have hot reloaded. Oh my God, the UI still looks... I'm just going to show you because it's just funny now. And let me quickly switch windows there. And it looks like this right now.
Bro, Craigslist UI.
It's completely broken. This is, I mean, if this was on purpose, that would have been really funny. But I don't think this is on purpose.
That's funny.
I think this is, again, just shows you even when you are starting with a great coding agents in a code base that's already working well, you've got frameworks around it. Things can work great, but if you just ask it starting something from complete scratch, then like start from a template, have something ready made, because if you just have it generate from scratch, I think it needs a lot more guardrails.
Yeah. I'm very impressed with the web interface, like starting there as an idea. And one of the other things I like to do sometimes get screenshots and put those in as well, because that could also guide the model tremendously. And just based off of just that text description that I gave it, it really understood and kind of went to town, the Opus model. And we're just scratching the surface, kids. Literally, everyone's still going to try to figure out how to adopt this into their development environments. Cursor's still trying to figure it out. They had some integration and we were able to see it there. Windsurfer is going to get that in soon. Sounds like you can already do this in Claude Code. The other thing that Yifan was showing us earlier is how do you do this in the GitHub integration, right? So literally you do /GitHub init in Claude Code, it connects to your GitHub account. And so instead of having like this coding environment with like, Claude's $200 a month pro plan, it's just going to use your API key. And all you have to do is just go to GitHub into the issues bar and just hit @Claude, right? And then it's going to just take over and fix the issue for you, right?
Yeah, it will create work on the code, create the branch, and then gives you a straight link to create the PR. Done. Yeah.
To me, I call that like the efficient man's like version of Codex, right? Like you don't have to pay $200 a month. You just pay the API fee, and you're there because it's going to use your API tokens. It doesn't matter what plan you have. So if that's your workflow, you're always on the go, and you're like you said, project managery, or you have a repo that you're using a lot of issue stuff, you would definitely want to check that feature out. I think you get the most bang for your buck right now. It sounds like if you get the Claude Max plan, and then once you get the Claude Max plan, just using Claude Code, because look at all that cost was abstracted away from you. You took that risk without realizing like, oh my God, I just threw away $10 or something. So it's like,
there's no token anxiety, right? Because when you have API keys, you always have that anxiety of, did I spend too much? Did I waste my money? But if you already sunk that money at the very beginning, it's like it's sunken cost. It's fine.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Man, that's amazing. So, and then we also took a look at some of like the benchmarks and stuff. And you were saying that because the models are sort of already saturated in terms of intelligence, like, a couple percentages leaps may or may not make this like the difference, but the bigger difference is in the tool calling. And we can actually see the differences in instruction sets between like the web version and like the Claude Code version. And to me, the Claude Code definitely has a huge advantage if you're going into an existing repo where there's already code available and it's trying to learn about your repo by running, these commands.
Yeah, there's a lot of guardrails and frameworks already. Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of actually helps it like, go there. But if those aren't defined yet, you have to be maybe a little bit more explicit to get those set up. And so, yeah, it's interesting how many different approaches here, and everyone will definitely have to play around with them. We're just kind of this is our first look at these models. And one of the things that we want to do is come back maybe in the following week or something and talk about Devin, because that'll be really interesting as far as like maybe comparing Devin with Jules and all these different
Codecs, Claude Code.
Codecs, yeah, Claude Code, and seeing how have they evolved and kind of how they're working, maybe even Cursor background agents, because maybe that like I feel like that itself could be its own show, because there's a lot going on here. But to me, this model feels amazing. Like it didn't hiccup with that massive instructions, because typically I would have to hit continue in Claude, and it just was beast mode right there.
Yeah, and now looking at drawing a conclusion from our experiments, might be the best to start off your prototype in the web interface, take that code and a screenshot, then go to Claude Code to just go turn this into something proper, add a proper backend, add authentication, do that work. That might be a lot more reliable, because I think when you just leave it, work on too many things on the backend, and it could just like waste a lot of time down different rabbit holes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Wow. Any closing thoughts you kind of want to share, or things that you're thinking about that could be helpful? Also, if anyone has any questions, feel free to like drop them below. We'll be happy to answer them, whether it's techniques to help you with, tips or coding, or not coding, but like more rules files, or what you're running into as far as any walls and stuff. We definitely happy to call it out here. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think this is just a food for thought for everyone. I say, it's now a really great time to think about how to create some mini benchmarks for yourself, just so that, there's so many great AI coding agents out there now. And having a standard set of coding, ideally with the existing code base, something you're already working on, that you can consistently test with every new model that comes out, so that you can judge for yourself whether it's, Windsurf came out with a new model. Is it better than what you used to with Cursor? And now Claude Code came out with Sonnet 4 and Opus 4. Is it better than what you had with 3.7? Maybe it's marginally better, or maybe you don't feel the difference, right? But spending a little bit of time building that framework, maybe it's a prompt, maybe it's a repo setup at a specific commit, decide for yourself. But I think having that benchmark just makes it very easy for you to decide, okay, something's new, should I move? If it works, great. Something didn't work before and it works now, I know I should move. Otherwise, it's like, okay, happy with my setup, no need to change, right?
That's right. And that's how you can kind of vibe check the models as well. So Alberto, who's a member, says, now I'm thinking about V0 prototype in GitHub and Claude Code to cook with it. Yeah, so you can start with V0. I use v0.dev a lot because I really like that model for generating everything that's really SHADCN compatible and Tailwind. It's all kind of stuff baked in without me describing it. And then what's nice about it is you can actually deploy it, and it goes right to the GitHub from V0. And then I could just go into GitHub issues and just say I want this feature, and then Claude Code can just start cooking right on top of that. It's kind of cool. It's a really interesting workflow that you talked about there. So that'd be really interesting. For Yifan, does Claude Code have an equivalent to Cursor rules?
Yes, it's called Claude.md. And you can generate that with a single command with /init. And Claude Code will do that automatically for you. And it will even learn from your existing Cursor rules to put that into the Claude.md thing.
That's really cool. Yeah, that makes sense. As far as like people who are wondering, did I just waste all my rules? Or I have to copy and paste them? And that's how it just, that's really cool. Working on a drum machine mix. Okay, this guy's kind of building his own thing. Frederick's like, awesome stream, guys. Fire. Hyped to be cooking with Claude Code tomorrow morning. Frederick, you do not want to miss this model. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. You can go the max mode, and you can kind of do that. I think LiveBench just updated with the new Claude. Did you see it? Have you seen it? Have you seen that at all?
I'm just opening the website now, and let me just share the screen so that we can maybe have a quick check of what's in here.
Yeah. Ooh.
So it's another LLM benchmark. Let's just look at the ranking now.
Wow.
Okay,
O3?
Opus 4 thinking is global average slightly lower than O3. Reasoning, slightly worse. Coding, slightly worse. Interesting. Mathematics, way better. Data analysis, better. Language, roughly the same. IF, what's IF actually? I'm not quite sure. Yeah. So Sonnet is also quite close and to O3 medium. But actually, I think what's interesting here is how close Sonnet 4 is to the other top models, because Sonnet is way cheaper than O3 medium and O3 high here, right?
That's a
And
good
it's only
point.
at $3 per million input and $15 per million output. And then interesting to see, like Opus is only very marginally better than well, I mean, like than Sonnet, and Reason
Yeah.
is even worse. Wait, Opus is actually quite a bit worse in a lot of individual scenarios, huh?
Yeah. So
But yeah,
maybe for coding, just Claude for Sonnet, you're good. Like you're going to be, if you hit Claude for Sonnet, you're basically just under O3 medium. And then like, remember how we were thinking about what is the model actually doing in Claude Code? So I could see that Claude 4 Opus thinking for like what you would use O3 for in terms of planning. And then just as far as raw code execution, taking that plan and then running it through Claude 4 Sonnet, right? So is Claude 4 Sonnet without thinking also in there? I'm just curious to see where that lands.
let's see. So Claude 4, O4 Mini.
'Cause all the thinking models are at the
We got it.
top.
We got it. O4.
Oh,
Claude 4 Opus.
oh, interesting.
And
So
it's
Flash?
quite a bit lower. So
Whoa.
Flash is higher than Claude
Bro.
4. So 2.5 Flash is,
Dude, that's a great bang for the buck. 2.5 Flash? That's almost free, bro.
honestly, I mean, 2.5 Flash is at 15 cents per million input, and Claude 4 Opus
Four.
is at 15, so
Dollars.
100 times.
Yeah. Holy
So it's 100 times
smokes.
more expensive, but only marginally better. But then again, it's just like with the thinking turned off. But still,
Yes.
I mean,
Whoa.
R1 is actually higher, right? Based on the global average here.
Interesting. Bro, this is
So
amazing.
Sonnet is also lower, and I mean even Qwen, like QWQ and Quinn is up there.
Wow.
I'm wondering whether this is one of the benchmarks that's most of LM aren't so trained on. Maybe
Oh,
that's
I see.
why we're seeing like lower numbers. And so the one I'm also like more excited for the updated number is the Ada Polyglot benchmark, because I mean, for the people who haven't used Ada is another one of those CLI coding tools. So much like how Claude Code operates, they have got this benchmark, which I really like because it gives you language. I mean, multiple benchmarks in multiple different languages and compares the cost across all of them. So it looks a lot more stark when you look at, say, O3, even though it's at the highest correct percentage, it's also, like one of the most expensive ones out there. And, O3 combined with GPT 4.1 lowers the cost and does things more correctly.
Wow.
And you have O4 Mini, is a great bang for the buck. R1 with Claude Sonnet 3.5 is also great bang for the buck. Similarly, like a 2.5 Pro, slightly more expensive. So I just see the Ada Polyglot LLM benchmark as a more realistic test for most LLMs and in terms of like actual coding. So for people who don't, this is a one benchmark I definitely normally watch for.
Wow. So definitely we're going to be playing with Claude 4. So you're going to try the thinking models then? Because it sounds like thinking, well, I guess if you're using Claude Code, it must be doing thinking or something underneath the hood there because...
So the funny thing with the Claude Code is the thinking is triggered through natural language. And if you work on a hard problem, you can ask it to think, and then there's think hard, and think very hard. I can't remember the exact trigger word, but it's like the equivalent. So you don't need to like click on buttons. You just say think. It's like, okay, that was bad. Think harder. And it's quite funny.
I want you to cook harder.
Yeah.
Whoa, think super duper ultra juice 128 hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they
Dang.
actually have 4 tiers that you can use
Yeah.
different words for. Yeah.
Oh my God, bro. Think Viagra. It's like,
Let me find out for you. Like Claude
bro,
think.
like no way,
Yeah,
bro.
let me
Okay.
find out the exact words.
Okay. So like they're the ones who actually invented vibe coding if they're coming up with these
Yeah.
like slang
Okay.
terms.
So there's 4 layers. There's think hard, think harder, and ultra think.
No way. So if you say
The last
ultra
one is
think,
called ultra.
and
It's
that's
the
in Claude
longest.
Code, right?
It's in Claude Code. And
Okay.
so let me show you the exact. So this is in their documentation. Here, you can change the thinking budget by think hard, and think harder, ultra think.
Ultra think. One word, ultra think.
It's
Huh.
really weird. They selected then not think hardest, right? Why?
Yeah, because people naturally
this is like bad
they don't want
API
people to use
naming.
it.
It's
Oh, I think
yeah.
it's guided
think
so
it's-
that they only want people to
Go
know
ahead,
about
sorry.
ultra think. Yeah, ultra think is almost an Easter egg, so they want people to like not use it as much as possible. But once you know, you know. And
yeah,
especially if
I
you
know.
have a max plan, but that must eat away at your max like usage maybe for the day. Like if you do ultra think for everything.
So based on the rate limit, it's worth me showing this page. So rate limits Claude. Can I see? I remember Claude Pro have any rate limits. Yes, I think this is one for Claude Pro, but Claude Max works very similar here. And it's like they just say Claude Code has 5x the normal usage, and they give you a minimum of number of messages that you can send per like 5 hours, and then
Wow.
max is 5x the pro usage, and then the $200 max is 20x the usage.
Wow.
So like every 5 hours, and I think Claude did a really nice thing by giving you like 2 levels of upgrade, right? Upgrade to the one to get 5x, and then pay double but get 4x
Wow.
the usage. It's nice to give you the upgrade path rather than ChatGPT and
Right.
Google just asking you for, give me $200, please.
Yeah, just like YOLO and stuff like that. Working on
Yeah.
UI UX project, building that with Lovable, watching you about Claude 4, subscribing Claude 4, and building an idea that I had this week. Face blue smile. Okay, so you're going to subscribe to Claude 4.
Welcome on board.
Yeah, I think you can do the regular $20 a month until you hit a limit, I would say, and then just keep, like you say, bumping up until needed, right? Because I feel like these are pretty good already, and they depending on what you're doing. They didn't train Opus for benchmarks. That makes sense. How good is Claude 4 on UX UI design? Can we stop using Bolt or Lovable? I think that'll need some more testing, to be honest. I find that the web version was in one shot able to really understand and build a nice little looking UI with React. In the Claude Code, it seemed to be more back-end focused. It seemed like, right? Like structure there.
Yeah, I think it's, if you are looking to vibe code and get prototypes out, nothing's going to beat Bolt, Lovable, or Replit, or the equivalents, because their agentic workflow is specifically tuned to create and rapidly deploy prototypes.
Right.
And then, but if you want to work on serious projects where you have paying users and you have a larger code base, Claude Code, Lovable, or Bolt, and at least my experience with them and Replit, it won't give you that kind of flexibility to do what Claude Code can do. So the great workflow would be, I personally pay for Replit and Lovable at the same time. I kind of start with V0 like you do, and go either or directly start with a Lovable and Replit, then graduate into Claude Code when when that becomes just more of a prototype, when I need to deploy to users. And I think that's the right path to go. It's definitely not a one size fits all, and each one of them optimizes for different things.
There is one I checked out. It's called Mocha, and I'm still kind of playing around with it. But this one's supposed to be more like design centered. So it's called getmocha.com. And this one is supposed to, like, you can say, create a blog platform, a recipe finder. And a lot of the apps that it generates are like really, really good looking things, like just as one of the apps that it generates and stuff. Like you can take the code, you can do whatever you want with it as well. And, it seems to have like a better sense of design. These are all like live apps and stuff that you can build with it. And so, yeah, I'm still like, I mean, I'm not endorsing it or anything like that, but like someone kind of brought this up to my radar, and these are pretty awesome. Like even little animations in the background and stuff are pretty cool. So yeah, I don't know what's the pricing like here. It's free, 15 edits powered by AI. You get $20 a month. Okay, yeah, they go up and stuff. So yeah, this is probably something for people to play around with if they wanted to prototype, design an expense tracker. You can kind of submit it and start to kind of play around with it. Looks like it right away, and it gives you the code as well. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Maybe we can start it there and then bring it into Claude Code and to do the things and stuff like that. So transforming legacy code bases or projects to a modern architecture is a good way to test WordPress to like, I think, was it the guy from Vercel, Lee did like, I want to, upgrade something or to another. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this use case might actually work better than most people think, because for most legacy code bases, if you're likely to already have some level of tests, given that you've already been maintaining it for a while, and then using the same test suite to then use that for the coding agents to do the migration, you might even get better results than, like just pure vibe coding. Definitely worth a try.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Gemini is clutch. It's the fastest too. Yeah, I think for the price, Gemini just sounds really ridiculous. Yeah. TPUs are definitely the things. Yeah, those limits. I'm gonna build an auto clicker for a one-shot prompt. Y'all are crazy. Yeah. Dang, dude, this was an epic live stream, man.
I can't believe it's almost been 3 hours.
Yeah, dude, it's almost 3 hours. We were just getting started. Like, there's so much I want to do. But yeah, we got to definitely
for a future live stream.
Yeah, for a future live stream. Where can people find you? Because I know people are probably looking to see like, who is this guy? I want to learn more from him and all this other stuff. So I'll let you kind of do your spiel here. Yeah.
Oh, great. You can find me on YouTube under the same handle, YifanBTH. And also you can find me on Twitter as YifanBTH as well. And a bit of personal history. Been, 12 years in startups and gone through 3 startups, having raised in the past like 8 figures, operated across multiple countries. Currently, just spending a lot of my time then using AI to build cash flow positive apps. And also awesome. Doing YouTube on the part-time.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of, it's funny because we're kind of cut from similar cloths, as far as like philosophies and stuff. And definitely appreciate everyone who's doing the streams. And like, if you're liking this, definitely hit the like. What actually helps the algorithm more is sharing. So if you share with friends or share with other people, that means it gets in front of other people who are just like you. And that kind of actually helps more than like, subscribing. Because I noticed that when people subscribe, they don't always see the streams. But it's funny when you share it, you get recommended, and it seems whatever your friends share to each other, like they're so good at with the sharing algorithm. So more than like liking and subscribing, which I don't mind. I feel like the more important metric for me is like if you really like this, sharing it with other people is actually much more helpful. Because that means that you really enjoyed it, and then someone else that you think may enjoy it. And I promise you, after this stream, I'm going to have it all transcribed, and I'll have it all the timestamps available. So if you're going to be watching this or you want to go back to a certain part, I will have the timestamps available. I've made some apps for this so that we can do this, and because we covered a whole bunch of stuff on this stream. And yeah, a little bit about me. It's like I used to work at Apple for 12 years, and so now I'm kind of like no longer work there, and I'm taking a look at AI. And the more I look into AI, the more I realize going back to a corporate job is actually much more dangerous than, being on your own to learn these tools and resources. We're seeing how fast these changes are happening just in this 1 week alone, that we have to understand how these things work and continue to use them in our workflows and implement them. And the goal for me is just like Yifan, is to, make some of these apps. For me, is try to make my first 100K online with these different app ideas. And I do want to share something that I felt was really inspired that I took away from the live stream. And it was really interesting. Dario Amadei, the CEO of Anthropic, said, whatever you're building, think bigger, think way bigger, because the next model that comes out in 3 more months can be even crazier and kind of meet you where you're going. And so it reminds me a little bit of what happened last year when Cursor came out. It was just an okay IDE. And it wasn't until Claude Sonnet 3.5 came out where I did a live stream in August, literally almost a year ago, And I used it to generate like an app in real time with V0, went into Cursor and, just iterated. And that's where everything kind of really blew up. After that, this 8-year-old girl took Cursor in 20 minutes. She built a full Chat with Harry Potter app. And that's when like the whole world really changed. The model got updated and got more intelligence, and that kind of slid into an already existing app, which Cursor was already there. And so downstream, they definitely benefited. And we're seeing like the explosion that happened afterwards, right? The windsurf thing that kind of came about and like all the pivots from all these companies. And so it's making me think about my apps and things. It's like, maybe I have to dream a lot bigger because I have to skate to where the puck is going. So when the puck does show up, I'm ready to score that goal. And maybe I'll be the first to $1 billion company by 2026. So instead of 100K challenge, let's say the $1 billion challenge, right?
True. True, the steam engine, shipping steam engine. And
yes, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think to add to that, I'm getting a very different kind of anxiety now, because especially with all of those more powerful background coding agents, like Claude Code, Cursor, Jules, that can kind of run on the background. I'm getting this vibe where I'm not designing things fast enough for my agents to execute. And it's like having a team that's always ready, but they are just out there just having a smoke and drinking coffee. And just sitting on the side, especially when I'm not maxing out my Claude Max plan. I feel like, okay, I'm wasting my money. Okay, I need to be using this harder. So
yes.
that
wow.
Yeah, I think the like you said is I think our imagination is our limits right now. It's really the rest it still requires a lot of tinkering to get things correct. But right now is the best time to spend doing that tinkering to get your workflow out so that every new model that comes out you can only benefit. Because at the end of the day, I remember watching a YC video when they said, if you're thinking about like working on any software these days, make sure you do something that benefits from the model getting better rather than just plugging a gap the model can't do. Because if you just plug a gap, you're going to be replaced very quickly. But if you're just leveraging models to do more, then there's so much opportunity for you to do. And I mean, I love, the Vibe timestamp work.
Yes.
That the model gets better, you get better timestamps, and users have better experience. I think that's one of the perfect examples there.
Yeah, and it's just me sort of exercising this understanding of trying to learn this programming language and seeing what it can do. I think some of my ultimate goals really are to learn how to program like a TPU, because I've been seeing some incredible work done at the TPU, like at the low level stack. And I'm really interested also in like what Chris Latner is doing with Mojo. So like they're literally making the programming language that will interface with CUDA with all the low level stuff at the hardware level. And so that way you don't have to learn how to do CUDA per se, but you can actually have the strength and power of these GPUs to make them do whatever you want. So if I learn how to program in Mojo, then I'll be able to program any GPU the way I want it without spending like half a year tinkering with these different drivers and stuff, but able to move really quickly to, do really cool stuff like my own training runs, my own custom models, my own things that could operate in the market, maybe on low level hardware. And, like imagine like building my own version of Siri or something that's like way more intelligent. And instead of writing MCP wrappers, I'm basically writing either protocols that can be, leveraging them or setting up my own auth scheme or setting up like it's actually kind of really like this idea is really just kind of exploding in my head. It's like, man, I can do these things now because the capability of coding and the leverage that I can get is the highest it's ever been. And I'm sort of lucky that I've had all this software experience that I can kind of start to like experiment with or get closer to. So yeah. The other thing is like Runway, right? Like how much more runway do I have as an independent person doing this stuff? And is literally just live streaming and doing this stuff going to be helpful because I get to teach other people as I go? And will that gather enough audience for it to pay for itself? I think that's another interesting question because, all this stuff costs money to run and do these types of things. And it's just really curious to see. But I don't know. I'll figure it out as we get there. And I think that's kind of turn on the camera. Everyone hangs out. I appreciate everyone who's come to the stream to hang out with us. I think it's just really cool. We're in this golden era that's, looking back, I feel like it would be so cool to peek in and see how people were building Google back then, what decisions people were thinking, and like who was the who's who back then, and people were in garages and stuff, they weren't really sharing that much, maybe at a meetup, but like, there's nothing like you can go back to a certain social media video and like, this is when this happened,
Yeah. I'd say it's just always be shipping.
Yeah, always be shipping.
Right now,
yes.
always be shipping. Yeah.
ABS. Yeah.
ABS.
Cool, man. Yes. Cool. Yifan, thank you so much for joining the stream. This was an epic stream, and appreciate the extra overtime. We covered a whole ton of stuff, and I think everyone liked you on the stream. So it would be really great to have you back again, so that we can kind of cover some more stuff and go over more products. So yeah. Cool. Thanks, y'all. So definitely students, stay in contact with the socials, at Ray Fernando 1337 on X, on YouTube, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, every possible platform you can ever think of. Same with Yifan. Catch them there below. And until next time, folks, have fun with Claude 4. Let us know what you build in the comments. Drop those comments down there. And we'll see you in the next stream. Peace out, y'all.
Yeah. Bye.